It's
Yeah.
because I don't trust you to actually be doing it, and I need to
What do you
follow
mean?
up. Like I need to like a parent. Like I don't believe you, so I have to check in to make sure that you're really live streaming on the internet.
Oh, okay, I got it. Sorry, I thought that you were saying I don't care what the chat is saying, but I need like a worried parent. I have to check and make sure that you care about what the chat is saying. Which, sorry, chat, I don't. I just don't. Um, should we tweet about it, or is this going to be the world's most private stream?
I mean,
Exclusivity. That's what
I would
sells.
say,
In 2018, exclusivity sells.
is that true?
Yeah,
I
man.
mean, yeah, that's the Wu-Tang found that out better than anybody, right?
Well, we've got we're living at the culmination of hundreds of years of secret societies.
We are?
Well, the Freemasons haven't secretly ruled the world for hundreds of years for nothing. Exclusivity
Oh.
sells, baby.
Oh, okay. See, because I knew that the Illuminati was fake, but I guess it's actually the Freemasons that
Yeah, the
control the world.
Freemasons who control the world came up with the Illuminati false flag.
Or do you think it's actually see because everyone's talking about the one world government, which is obviously that's drivel. It's totally fake.
No,
But
it's also
actually it's two world governments.
it's
and they're
Earth
at
and
war.
Earth 2 are in collusion. The Illuminati from Earth 1 and the Freemasons from Earth 2, we actually live on Earth 2, are in cahoots to rule both worlds in tandem.
Give me 1 second to respond to a message.
Oh, Liza said, is this the same game as the one Keith did with Courtney the other day? I just didn't change the title. We're actually doing a Star Wars spoiler cast. Oh, I should have said that. I'm going to Star Wars spoiler cast. Star Wars : The Last Jedi. The Last Jedi.
Oh yeah, you have to tell people that it's a Star Wars spoiler cast because what if they don't want them spoilers?
Yeah, that's the thing. I almost 100% forgot. Liza said you got my name right. Yeah, it only takes 2. That's what I always say. It takes 2, and then I remember your name.
With Liza.
Yeah.
Oh, did we call them like Lisa before or something?
I said Lisa. Yeah, all the Lizas I know are Lisas. This is my first
And
Liza.
And you know whose fault that is? It's not
the
Liza's
parents.
fault. It's not Liza's fault. It's the fault of
The blame lies with the
people
parents,
having
Kyle.
weird names. Like, because you know that somebody out there named their kid Lisa.
Lisa's not a weird name.
Lisa.
Yeah, Lisa. It's like Lisa, but with a Z. Lisa.
Yeah, that's not. No.
Is this the hill you're gonna die on? Is the anti-Lisa
yes.
hill?
Yes.
Oh boy, you're such a petty man. You make me sick.
Yeah, I know. That's the one thing about me is that I can never let anything go. And that's something everybody knows about me.
Yeah, and it's something that I don't have.
Yes.
In the chat, I'm hearing about Liza Minnelli. Never met her.
Yeah, it's not Lisa Minnelli. That would be crazy.
But I never met her. I watched her on TV. Never met her.
I don't even know who she is.
She played Lucille 2 in Arrested Development.
Oh, I knew it. Like as soon as the words came out of my mouth, I was like, "Wait a minute." But yeah.
Wait a dang sec.
Wait a ding dong second. Okay. Well, are we almost ready to get into this?
I want to give it a second to register that it's not Princess Maker 2 Refine that we're playing, and actually it's a Star Wars spoiler cast, and
Oh, that's
also
a
we
good
need to tweet it
point.
out.
And I should actually finish getting to the chat because I never finished my journey.
Your gurney?
You called it Star War. Star War: The Last Jedi.
Yeah, there was only one war in that movie.
Oh shit.
Stars War. Actually, multiple stars, one war. Stars
good
War:
point.
The Last Jedi.
Actually, the scope was a lot smaller than normally. They barely even went to any other stars in that movie. But I get we can talk about that.
Okay.
I mean, or not. I mean, it's not really super
No,
relevant.
we'll
so-
talk about it. I'll put it on the docket.
Okay, great.
Yeah. I'm in charge of the docket, Kyle. That means you're taking minutes. Kyle and I are doing a Star Wars spoiler cast right now on YouTube. If you want to watch and throw out.
Don't say watch because they can't watch. Say listen. You have to use the right words for things. You gotta say listen if they're just gonna be listening. You have to say restaurant if you're talking about a place where people sit down and eat food that they ordered from a waiter. We have all these rules in the English language.
We actually don't have any rules in the English language.
That's
no
it. Yeah,
rules.
that's actually that was the biggest lie I've ever told.
That's the thing. I was saying this on Twitter. I always feel like I'm getting into these arguments about language where it feels like I'm being the strict miser, where like you have like I'm always on the same side of like this thing and this thing are the same, but it's actually everyone else that's always saying like no, you can't call that. They have to be different.
Well, I think that for me, the piece that I have found in arguments about grammar is the idea that like, okay, yeah, there's no rules. Anything is just what we agree it to be.
Yeah.
But what do we agree?
Well, that's
Like,
what I mean.
What
is
do
that,
we
like,
agree on?
Like I guess what I'm saying is like we shouldn't let everybody agreeing that a restaurant and a store have different understandings. We shouldn't let that get in the way of they're both places that you go and buy something, and then because that's just what a store is.
But that let's not get into this. All I want to say
That's
is
what this is. It's actually
the reason that there's a material difference between a store and a restaurant is that a restaurant is not just a place where you go to buy something. A place where you go to sit down and have a meal that you have ordered from somebody and they have brought to you.
You know, I talked
whether
this.
it be at a table or at a counter that you then bring to a table.
You know, I
That's
talked
what a
about
restaurant
this.
is.
I talked about this on Twitter. Plasma Fun Time. But how about like a laser zone? That's a place where you go to a store and buy a thing at the store, consume it at the store, and leave.
I don't even all the places that you just said. I don't know what those places are.
Plaster Fun Time is a place where they have like empty. You know what
Plaster
Laser Zone
Fun
is?
Time?
Laser Zone's a
I-
laser tag place.
I can guess what a laser zone is.
Okay, Plaster Fun Time. It's a store. It's a chain of stores, basically for kids, where they have like a bunch of little statues, and then you go in the store, you paint the statues, and then they glaze it in the store, and then they give it to you.
Oh, yeah, we have a place like that near here that's called Color Me Mine, and
Color Me Mine.
kids like it.
Yeah, kids love it.
But that's again,
I
it's
painted
not,
a Charmander when I was 7.
so that kind of place is definitely not a restaurant because you're not eating anything. I mean, it's a place that you
But it's a
buy
store.
something from. But again, I wouldn't call it a store because like a store to me is a place that functions only as a warehouse to purchase things and then leave with them. Whereas this weird place where you're sitting down to paint something, I don't know what to call it, but I wouldn't call it a store.
This is
It's
a store.
definitely a place where you purchase things, but that doesn't make it something that easily fits under the colloquial usage of the word store. Like you
It's a
can't
store.
just you're sounding like a robot. You're like, store is place where you buy thing. Therefore,
It's a
if you
store.
buy
It's
thing,
just
it is
it
a
just
store.
is a store. It doesn't
it's
matter that it's a store, but it is a store.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Keith. It doesn't matter that there's only one war, but it is Star Wars.
There you go. I'm glad that we can agree.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to...
Wait, I still haven't tweeted.
You haven't tweeted
Yeah,
yet?
you started arguing with me out of nowhere.
Oh, right, of course. There Kyle goes again with his classic arguments.
Kyle's always starting
He's always
arguments
the,
with
he's
me.
always the one
You
starting
did
arguments.
start this argument. But I mean, you did it over the phone, not just now.
It's true,
It is 100% true.
but like I just brought it up as a joke, and I thought you would go like, "Ha," and then let it go. I didn't know it was gonna be a fucking thing.
Of course, it's gonna be a thing, Kyle.
Of course, it's Keith. Of course it is. It's Keith. It's gonna be a thing.
It's the same fucking thing as the hot dog and sandwich, and it's the same fucking thing as the cheesecake is a pie or a cake. It's the same fucking that keeps coming up over and over and over.
Are you talking about cheese pie?
Yeah, I'm talking about cheese pie.
Okay.
It's the same thing. See, we agree on that one. So why can't we agree on this one?
Because on the cheesecake thing, you're pretty much right, but on the other things, you're wrong. That's why we can't agree. All right, can we just talk about Star Wars? Oh God,
I tweeted it out. Yeah, we can talk about Star Wars if you want. What do you want? What do you fucking feel like you have to say that's so fucking important about Star Wars?
That's not how we start.
Okay, here's our welcome to Run Button. We're doing a Star Wars podcast, Spoilercast.
Keith,
what do you fucking think? Yeah.
No, I already started doing the intro, and you interrupted me because you didn't finish the thing you were supposed to do. So why you let me do it?
There's no reason why I was supposed to make the tweet, by the way. Could have been you.
Yeah, but you're the one streaming.
Oh, okay, you're right. So I did half the work, so I should do the rest of the work too.
Uh-huh.
Listen, Kyle, I make dinner, you do the dishes. That's the deal.
Well, can I do the dishes right now?
Go for it.
Welcome everybody to our spoiler podcast of Star Wars episode 8, The Last Jedi. We're here. The movie came out a million years ago. Everybody's seen it. Let's talk about it.
To be fair, the first person in the room had to leave because she hadn't seen the movie.
Well, I mean, we weep for their absence.
Mm-hmm.
And when they finally see Star Wars Last Jedi, they'll have a nice, delicious podcast treat waiting for them. So I had 2 people bail on me to see this movie with, so I waited a long time before I saw it and eventually saw it by myself. And then you went, okay, now I need to go see it again to remind myself about the movie. And as soon as you said that, I was like, we're not going to do this podcast for like 2 weeks until it's now been too long for me and I can barely remember the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But you've seen it like 3 times now?
Yeah, I saw it 2 days in a row last week.
How did that go? I saw Force Awakens twice in the theater, and this probably gets back to my ADHD makes it really, really, really hard for me to sit in one place and do nothing but watch a movie for the length of a Star Wars movie. But by the end of the second viewing of The Force Awakens, I was kind of like, maybe 2 times in the theater was too many times.
I'm really good at watching movies, so I didn't really have a problem with it. It was annoying.
I forgot that you're the best movie watcher.
I'm really good at watching movies. No, I'm just like, I'm good at paying attention and not like being like, oh, I wish I could do a second thing, you know?
Yeah. Well, I would say that that's not something that you're really good at. It's just a way that your brain is different from my brain.
Well, I'm good at my brain being different than your brain. Jeez, get off it.
Hey, Keith, maybe we should clap.
Fine.
Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Perfect. It's
Wow,
always
That
perfect.
was a long delay.
Oh, for me, it was instantaneous.
Oh, for me, it was very long. I almost
I
thought
guess that's a good thing, right? Because for one of us, it should have a lag, and for one of us, it should be totally synced up. So that's
I would like it better if it was more like a split, but you know. All
Well,
right. All right.
you're counting, right? So I'm going off of your lag. And so if I did it perfectly and you heard a delay, that's 100%. That's how it should be.
There you go. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, man, I think we're stumbling here because it's hard because it's been a while. I think maybe maybe I feel like maybe now we're doing a podcast more out of obligation than immediately when we were like, let's talk about Star
Yeah, I
Wars.
was really
This is
excited to
gonna be
do
fun."
it, and then you were like, I'm sick. I can't sit here in front of my computer and talk.
I was sick.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah, I didn't feel good.
I don't know. I feel like, you're sick. You got to be living your life anyway. You might as well be living your life and talking about Star Wars for 2 hours.
No, I wasn't living my life. I was lying in bed going, I'm sick.
That's living your life. That's part of life. Being sick is part of
Right.
life, Kyle. Sometimes things break and bodies are things.
All right, let me frame this for people. So could you remind me? It's been so long since we talked about The Force Awakens. I kind of forget what we both said about it when we did a spoiler cast for that one, but I feel like I remember you thinking that the movie was pretty good, but that you didn't really love it. But then this one you saw it and you were like, I love this one.
Yeah, so here's the thing. This is a great way to start off because I want to put into context. I think that last time I gave Force Awakens, I can't remember exactly what I said about it, and I really wanted to rewatch it before doing this podcast and didn't get a chance because I would like for The Last Jedi to recontextualize The Force Awakens for me if it can. But I remember saying that I thought it was pretty good but not great, and that I had it had some really great Star Wars-y feeling moments to it, but that it was really inconsistent. And I ended up giving it a C or a C plus when I graded it, and you thought that was a really low letter grade for what I was saying about it. And I came out of this movie saying that I loved it, and I would call it a B plus. That's my loved it mark, is a B plus.
Sure.
A lot of room for improvement. But overall, very good. I would give it one full letter grade above the last one. Above Force Awakens.
I probably said something to this effect when we talked about Force Awakens. I don't feel like I could give it a letter grade. I think what I would say is, I think I think this movie was better than The Force Awakens. But I think appropriately for a sequel, it was my feelings towards The Force Awakens were a lot stronger because it was yay, someone finally fixed Star Wars. And this one is okay, I already am on board for the general tone of this thing. So I'm just judging the movie purely on its own merits. And I think it's better than the first one. I mean, it's
Wow, it's crazy to live in a world where the 7th Star Wars movie is being referred to as the first one.
Well, it's the first of the post Lucas Star Wars.
Yeah, you're right. I feel like I never heard the Phantom Menace referred to as the first one, which I think says something about
because it's not.
What do you mean? It is literally episode 1.
But it's not the first one though.
But then in the same way that it's not the first one, The Force Awakens is not the first one.
I know. Well, you know what? I think
I guess what I'm saying is it says something about the substance of the series so far that people can go this is the first one of this set, and no one would ever say that about the Phantom Menace because people don't want to think about it.
No, I changed my mind just now. I think if we were sitting down to be hey Keith, let's make a podcast about the Star Wars prequels, I think we would probably. We've already done that. That's everything we've ever recorded. Is at some point we start arguing about Star Wars prequels.
Yeah.
I think if that were the case, we would probably call Phantom Menace the first one. I think it was weird because the biggest complaint I think most people had, and you and I talked about this with The Force Awakens, was that it kind of felt like they were just doing a weird remake of the original Star Wars. And then I was curious. I honestly, I was really hoping that they weren't going to continue that and make The Last Jedi basically kind of a weird remake / echo movie of The Empire Strikes Back, and they absolutely did that. But I think it kind of turned. I think it had better results than with The Force Awakens, probably just
Uh,
because The Empire Strikes Back is a better movie than A New Hope.
I first of all, that's the point of contention between us. I don't necessarily think that's true. That The
Really?
Empire Strikes Back, yeah, we've talked about this before. I don't necessarily think that Empire Strikes Back is like whole cloth a better movie than A New Hope.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were going to say that you aren't sure that The Last Jedi is trying to crib off of The Empire Strikes Back, and I was like, that's
Well,
crazy.
and that's the other thing. I do feel like it was so different. Like, okay, this has been talked about to death. This movie is straight up antagonistic towards Star Wars as a popular movie franchise. It is not antagonistic towards the themes of Star Wars, and it's not antagonistic towards a lot of Star Wars' strengths.
Well-
but as a popular movie franchise, The Last Jedi is really critical of some of the choices that these movies have made in the past.
Yeah.
And because of that, I think it's.
So I was going to say, I think maybe it's less critical of other movies in the series and more critical of the overarching, like, it's like more critical of the way, like, the sort of surface level understanding that most people have of Star Wars.
Agree, but I think that the movies also perpetuate that.
Maybe the prequels.
Yeah, and it's a bummer because like this movie also perpetuates that in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Like they have some really amazing characters that are super interesting, and the way that parts of this movie are written, and in my secret heart, what I want is for like the parts that Rian Johnson had least control over to be the worst parts of the movie. Because that's kind of how it feels. Like it feels like the movie has this really consistent tone when it's like, when it's people in control centers, or Rey talking to Luke, or Kylo Ren, anything to do with Kylo Ren. But then there's parts of it, yeah.
I'm sorry, I was looking at the chat. We brought up like. The thing about someone just yelled "porg" in all caps. I didn't really have. As an aside, I didn't have a huge problem with the porg, but I get why people are bothered by them.
Well,
but
you heard. I actually didn't. I saw them and didn't have a problem with it, and then learned about the puffin thing, which then gave me even less of a problem with them. Did you hear about the puffins?
Is it just that they look a lot like and are living in a place where puffins geographically would be found on Earth?
No, well, the place where they were filming was infested with puffins, and they couldn't get them out of the shots, so they just put porgs over them.
That's great.
Yeah, it actually
I love
really.
that.
Yeah, I already didn't mind them, and then when I learned that, I was like, oh, this is both like it's definitely a shitty Star Wars like toy grab, but Star Wars was always a shitty toy grab. It's always been that. They've always done it. They've never done it more successfully, I think, in my lifetime than BB-8. That was like the time where I've been most okay with a shitty toy grab.
I mean, Darth Maul, Jar Jar Binks. I mean, Jar Jar Binks was more like a failed toy grab, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm saying, but like, I was not okay with that. Or I was very young, but in retrospect, I was like, Jar Jar Binks sucks, and it was shitty that they tried to ever make that into a toy grab.
Yeah,
but the Porgs are like, they're kind of cute, and they have like a funny scene where they guilt Chewbacca into not eating one of them. That's funny.
Yeah, that's funny. I love the little bit where there's a Porg standing in front of the lightsaber and another Porg jumping on the on switch, and I'm like, oh my god, are they really gonna have a Porg murder another Porg with a lightsaber right
now? They didn't, right? I didn't miss something.
No, they did not. It just didn't work, and then they left.
So I get my point from.
Yeah. I didn't want to blow past what you were saying. The reason I stopped you is because I wanted you to reiterate. You were saying that you didn't like the parts
I'm saying that there were parts that because like at some point Disney tried to like back off of Rian Johnson as the director of the movie, and he also
Really?
wrote the movie. Yeah, they did. Yeah. And I feel like I want to believe in my heart of hearts that the problems that I had with the movie mostly arose from the parts that Disney was pushing back against, and that Disney was making decisions that were not part of the original vision of the script, which was like 80% really, really consistent and 20% like, that's weird.
I would say this is just my gut feeling, but I felt like watching The Last Jedi, the parts of it that felt a lot better to me than The Force Awakens, like I felt I could only feel like it has to be Rian Johnson, right? Like it was written and directed by somebody who got Star Wars more than J.J.
Really
Abrams
got
gets Star
and
Wars.
J.J. Abrams is a hack, and we all know it. Anyway. I get, but like, yeah, there's. I think,
but
like,
to be
I
clear,
think
that's exactly what I was saying.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Like Rian Johnson, like there was some like jokey. There's a lot of jokey laugh lines with Luke being like grumpy and shitty, and those didn't always land well for me. And I think that was like a lot of Rian Johnson stuff. But I think for the most part, the stuff with Rey and Luke was really good. The stuff with Luke and Yoda was really good. Like this movie, like that scene with Yoda, which was not perfect, and I had some problems with it, especially in retrospect. But like,
I loved that they brought back, like, even though it was digital, it was like puppet Yoda. Like I love that Yoda was acting like Yoda did in Empire Strikes Back, not the fucking shithead that was in the prequels.
100%, and he's being like a weird goofball. He's like fucking Kermit the Frog, and not
that's.
And here's the thing. There's like this amazing moment where you see the back of Yoda's head. You hear his voice and you see the back of his head, and that's the first shot of him. And then the camera cuts to Luke talking, and then it cuts back to a shot where you see the front of Yoda. And there was like this little kid in my row that when he saw Yoda's face, like gasped. Like was like so fucking excited that Yoda was there, so loud. The whole audience heard it. It was adorable, and like it really sort of highlighted the things that I really like about Star Wars, which is like the feeling of watching it and just being like, I fucking love this.
That's why I was disappointed that I saw it so late because, well, to be honest, I was hoping that it was so late, and I saw it like in the middle of the day, so I was kind of hoping like maybe I'll have a theater to myself and I can just like use my phone and not care. But it was actually mostly full. But I wish I got to see it with like the opening night crowd that would like cheer at stuff and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I would say like that your story about that little kid and Yoda is like great contrast to me as like a jaded adult who like when I saw Yoda's head I just rolled my eyes. I was like, really Yoda now?
I was like literally grinning for basically that whole scene. Like at first I saw him and I was like, oh man, Yoda's gonna like talk Luke out of hating the Jedi or whatever.
Yeah.
And then Yoda fucking lights the tree on fire. I was thrilled. I have been waiting my whole fucking life to hear.
And then literally rolls over laughing.
I know, yeah. I have been waiting my entire fucking life. I never ever in a million years thought I would hear a Jedi on a movie screen say the Jedi suck because all the Jedi do is cause the Sith. All they do is fight their own goddamn problems. And it happened, and I was like thrilled. And even though they walked it back at the end, just like hearing Luke be like, "The Jedi are a problem because the Jedi invented Darth Vader and risked the galaxy, and it doesn't matter that it took a Jedi to save the world. It also took a Jedi to fucking ruin it."
Yeah, exactly. And there was part of me because you know how like everything in this new trilogy is sort of the same as the old one, but it's like, oh, it's not the Empire, it's the New Order. It's not the Rebels, it's the Resistance. Although I guess maybe in the next movie it will be Rebels because of how it ends or whatever. But
yeah, they also call the Rebels in this one a lot, especially the horrible John Boyega line where he calls himself Rebel scum.
Like I know exactly why it's terrible, but part of me was sort of like, I do kind of like that. Though. I like it. I like it as a good moment for his character.
I think it's a bad... I mean, here's the thing. It works because that character is all about, like, being... Like, having to transition from a defector of the Empire to actually proactively involved in... Yeah, First Order. And see, exactly. And then actually proactively involved with the Resistance, and it is a step forward for how that character is supposed to be developing, but it also plays into the worst things about that movie, which is why it's better than the last one, because it has less of these moments. But it's the stuff where like they would show a clip of it when John Boyega's on a talk show. Like when John Boyega's on a talk show, they would like play that scene, and it would end with him saying, "I'm rebel scum." You know, that's what it feels like to me. Like it feels like the pandery sort of. It feels like the part of the Star Wars universe where the movie knows that it's a movie.
Exactly. Yeah. Like that's when I said like I get all the things that are bad about that. Like yeah, I totally agree. Like I've even apart from that scene, I've always felt like people in Star Wars say rebel scum like way too much. So and you're right. It's sort of like why does he know to say rebel scum like it's a thing that everybody knows? Like that's really weird. But
yeah.
It was a good moment for his character because honestly, I felt like that character spent most of the movie making me question why that character was even in the movie.
Here's the thing. This is like a big thing for me is that like John Boyega is a fantastic actor, and that character I really liked from The Force Awakens, and I just feel like they squandered his whole character by making him be the guy that says all of those lines. He had more of them than anybody else did. This is a side point. Let him fucking use his real accent. Everybody else in that movie is British. Just let him be British.
Yeah, and it would make sense. He's from the First Order.
From the First Order. Yeah, I know.
Like,
it's
what
insane.
The fuck?
It's crazy. They were like, yeah, we can't let this one person from the First Order have a British accent because he'll eventually defect. It wouldn't make any sense. People would be confused. Yeah. It's like, wait, he's not evil.
And my this is a bit of an aside here, but my favorite part of the movie is when they get to that racetrack and you're like, oh man, is this going to be dog racing? But then Ben Quaderneros shows up with his 4-engine pod racer, and then like the rest of the movie is basically just them riding around with Ben Quaderneros.
Wait, sorry, what is this?
Oh, sorry. Someone in the chat just said, is Ben Quaderneros in this one? And I just thought it would be fun to do a bit where we act like Ben Quaderneros was in it.
Oh, I don't know who Ben Quaderneros is.
Oh, well, I guess you didn't watch enough of Phantom Menace or play enough of that pod racing game, but he's the guy with the pod racer that has the 4 engines.
Oh, I didn't know that guy's name. With the weird legs?
I don't remember. I just remember. I always remember his name because it's Quaderneros. He has 4 engines.
Yeah, it's the guy with the legs. He has really long legs. I knew who it was when you described his pod. He has really long legs and no neck. Although I guess if you were looking at this guy and you said point out what's weird, the legs would not maybe be the biggest thing. It's that he has 2 pyramids for cheeks. But
yeah, I can definitely picture his crazy head. I just don't remember.
Yeah. I just remember him as having long, stupid legs.
Sorry, I interrupted you for a stupid bit, but I will go back to the part of my bit that was a real half thing was when they're at that fancy dinner full of all of the galactic war profiteers.
Yeah.
When they look out and see that racetrack, I was like, oh yeah, pod racing, let's do it. And then it was weird space dogs, and I was like, no, come on. I like the dogs.
Well, they had to have something to whip. You can't whip a pod.
I know, I get. Yeah, they were going for a thing, and I get it, but I wish it was pod racing.
And here's the thing. This is what I want to get back to. This is like an important thing, and I sort of feel like I have to talk through it. What was the girl that John Boyega was hanging out with the whole movie?
Rose.
I can't remember her name. Rose, yeah. Rose is like a good example of how this is well executed, where she meets John Boyega's character and goes like, oh, I live in this world and I know who you are, and I'm like struck by meeting you. In the same way, it's like it is a mirror to Luke Skywalker sort of bemoaning the idea that he is a legend and that he means something other than who he is, because it gives people ideas that are not real ideas, or not practical ideas, however right or wrong that is. And
because we, as the audience, we know that Finn is basically a useless shithead, but like everybody else is like, "Oh my God, you're the guy that did the thing," and he's just like, "I guess so.
I guess I did the thing." Yeah. Well, no, he was in a battle and he fought stormtroopers and he or whatever rebel
Oh,
or
so he lives in Star Wars, is what you're saying?
well, but I mean he was with Rey and Han Solo and
Yeah.
Chewbacca and
No, you're
he
right.
fought
But
Kylo Ren.
like his thing was like, oh my God, like you defected from the First Order. Like was such a brave thing you did because
Yeah,
you knew that the First Order is evil. When really he
he
just
was
ran away
scared.
because he was scared for his life.
Yeah, yeah.
Which
Um,
and of course that conversation happens as he is trying to again run away because he's scared.
yeah. So that, but like, what I mean is that stuff turns turns a movie knowing it's a movie into a movie acting like it's a world, and it's like the perfect counter to like the stuff where John Boyega says like I'm rebel scum, like because that's like the movie Winking where I don't know the
Right. Yeah.
Rose meeting John Boyega's character Finn. I always forget his name. Finn. I'm not good. I'm good with actors, but I'm not good with
Yeah,
character names.
clearly.
Yeah.
I don't know any of these people's names.
Finn, where like her meeting Finn is like the remedy almost. It's like if the other thing is a wink and a nod, that one is like a hug. It's like the way that stuff fits into the world in a way that is natural, as opposed to when you watch the first few Star Wars movies, the original Star Wars movies, you're not watching the sequel to. You're not watching a movie that knows that it is a legacy film. You're
Sure.
just watching a Star Wars movie. And so when you watch a movie and you go, this is a Star Wars movie, but it's also a legacy film, it starts to feel like icky and weird. And The Force Awakens has more of that, and The Last Jedi has a little bit less, but they both have it, and they both feel. That's why I think
It knows that you're supposed to be impressed. Like when Star Wars things happen in Star Wars,
Yeah.
Star Wars knows that you're supposed to be impressed.
and
Like that's all throughout the prequels also.
and that's the stuff where like I saw a really good tweet about how like Star Wars doesn't really have controversy because it's such a huge thing that no matter what happens, someone's going to like it and someone's going to dislike it. So it almost doesn't matter. Like it's still interesting to talk about like, hey, here's what I liked and here's what I didn't
agree
like.
with that.
But the idea that it's like there's this huge group of people that fucking hate how this movie called lightsabers laser swords sarcastically, which I fucking loved.
I fucking loved.
I
I loved
loved
that part.
Yeah, see, but that's
so
what I'm
good.
saying. It's like it doesn't matter because there's always going to be there's just so many people
Yeah.
that people are going to
Well-
hate a thing and love a thing at the same time.
I actually
but,
wanted to bring that up. I wanted to bring that up and back up and talk about that a little bit with you
okay,
because
I have one more
from
point.
my-
I want to make one more point and then we
Okay.
can back up.
Yeah.
The moments where like Luke does shit like that, or where he drinks the gross green milk like from Tatooine, and he's like being gross about it, like stuff that like pulls you out of the like isn't Star Wars so glorious and popular?
Exactly,
and goes like actually Star Wars is weird and gross, and it's filled with cranky people and idiots.
Yeah.
That I fucking love that stuff, and this was filled with stuff that makes you think about Star Wars as something other than a massively popular movie franchise.
Exactly.
And
I mean,
is the
it's
next legacy follow-up.
I mean, it's no secret. It's no secret why you and I like this movie. It's because it basically does what we love about like Obsidian games, which is where
Yeah.
it takes this world and says, let's stop making it about all of the tropes that you know about this world, and let's start presenting it as like, what would this world look like if people actually lived in it, which was
Yeah.
always George Lucas's vision for the original Star Wars from the beginning anyways.
Yeah. Oh my God, when they brought out those fucking falling apart monoski speeders, I was like overjoyed. I was like, they made the most broken ass, oldest ass future thing. Like, because that was the term, right? Old future. That was like
Yeah.
George Lucas's best / only good idea. Like, it's the thing. It is the thing that made Star Wars feel the way it does. It's like the signature move of Star Wars. And when they brought those things out, I was over the moon.
It's funny that part didn't really hit me in any particular way, but yeah, I liked hearing the stories about like on the set of the first Star Wars movie, like the people in charge of keeping the sets clean would go around, like mopping all the floors, and then George Lucas would go and yell at them and like make it dirty again because he'd be going like, "Guys, it's not like no one ever walked on these floors before." It was like such a good point.
It's a
Like,
great point.
like this is a hallway
makes
where hundreds of people are constantly walking back and forth. The floor is going to be dirty.
it almost makes him seem like an auteur again. Like it almost brings back his like.
Yeah, this was in 1977 when he was.
Yeah, exactly. I guess. But yeah. So when they brought those things out, like. I don't know, what was it about them that didn't stand out for you? I don't know. It just felt like the only thing we have is these busted fucking like the gun literally peels back like a banana and they're bouncing on the ground and Poe Dameron puts his foot through one. He put his foot through it. It fell like he went to put his foot on the ground and a panel fell out of it.
Yeah. No, I guess what I just mean is like at that part of the movie I was just sort of like engrossed in the movie. I wasn't really like at that particular point. I wasn't like analyzing it from like a critical remove or anything.
Yeah, they remarkable restraint with my favorite Star Wars song, "Binary Sunset." I am almost positive it wasn't until the very end that they used it. Which is great. It's the best Star Wars song by far. Another great sound cue was. When Luke meets Leia and they play whatever I couldn't identify what music it was that was playing right before it, but it's sort of like medleys into like Princess Leia's theme, and it was
like
so good.
When he first goes into like the detention cell and the Death Star, like that theme.
Yeah, exactly that one. Really great music. I mean, it's Star Wars, but like they did a really good job putting the music in the right spots. Is I guess what I mean. Was there something?
So I wanted to back up and talk about. So to give you some perspective, like here's the only thing that I knew about Star Wars about The Last Jedi before I saw it was I knew that Nicole saw it and she loved it, and you and Isaac saw it and you guys both loved it, and then I heard you. I think you tweeted something or something. You said something like, "Oh, people are mad at The Last Jedi for ruining Star Wars." Like those were the three things I knew was like the two things I knew was the three people I know that saw it thought it was really, really good, and Keith said someone's mad about it because it ruined Star Wars, and that's all I know.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk more about that? Like, because I haven't encountered anybody that hasn't liked The Last Jedi.
Really? Okay. Well, when it first came out, there was like a lot of people that were Kyle, there was even a Twitter Moments about it, if you'll believe it.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
certainly there couldn't have been a Twitter moment.
It was the reason why it stood out to me was because the people that didn't like it, and I knew about this before I went and saw it, that people didn't like it, but I didn't look into it because I didn't watch any of the trailers. I knew I was going to see it. I didn't need to bother hyping myself up for it. I didn't want to be hyped up for it.
I didn't watch any trailers or anything.
So I went into it, I watched it, I really liked it, and lo and behold, that the things that people were complaining about, however great their number, I don't really know how big of a thing it was. It seemed big at the time. All of the things that I liked most about it were the things that people were complaining about. They were complaining about Luke not being enthusiastic about being a Jedi.
No.
Yeah, I know, exactly. They were complaining about him calling it a laser sword and diminishing the lightsaber. They were complaining about... Yeah, it was just like stupid shit. It was like the complaints of people that watched the movie without hearing any of the words, you know? Yoda destroyed the books. How could he do that? They're his books or whatever fucking shit. I don't know.
I mean, he didn't use the books to teach Luke, I don't think.
No.
I mean,
they're not page turners, is what I heard.
Okay, wait. Shit, I kind of lost.
We're talking about the sort of the ways that people did not like this movie.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I wasn't sure if there was anything more or interesting to that because I kind of could guess at like what exactly it was, but Uh,
I heard
yeah,
a lot of
it
people that
was
didn't like
interesting.
it because it was too much like Empire Strikes Back. But all of those people said that that's why they preferred The Force Awakens, which is insane because The Force Awakens is even
Yeah,
more like A New Hope than this was like Empire Strikes Back. Um,
I think I think I said this already. I think this one is more like Empire than Force Awakens is like A New Hope, but I still think it's a better movie.
um,
Yeah.
so the here's the thing is I do want to highlight that like there is a way to dislike this movie. There's a way to there's a way to dislike it
What?
that I would agree with. You know, you can dislike it in any fucking way you want. Like all there are the problems that I do have
Well,
with it.
I'm sorry.
If
I have to jump in and say you can dislike it for whatever reasons that you want, except for the idea that Luke isn't excited about being a Jedi. You can't dislike it for that reason.
too late. You're like a month too late on that. Still sick.
I still got a little bit of a cough.
Yeah. The uh the problems that I had with that movie, like if someone decided that those were bigger issues for them than they were for me, like there's a lot of criticism. I swear to God, when I saw the movie for the first time, I texted you that I loved it. I was talking with Isaac about it on the way home.
Oh,
But I was fucking complaining about it the whole time. All I did was complain about
God.
it. I spent like
You're the worst.
almost 3 straight hours nitpicking it, and then being like, "But I really fucking liked it."
could I ask this though? I think you weren't home or something, and I was talking to Isaac about you guys haven't seen the movie. He said at one point you got so excited that you just reached over and started hitting him.
Yes, I did
Do
do
you
that.
remember
Yeah,
what part you
I
started
do.
hitting
Yeah,
him
it
at?
was when it was the part where Luke Skywalker was saying how awful the Jedi were,
Yeah,
and
okay.
and like Vader was a Jedi and he almost destroyed the galaxy, and I was just
Yeah.
like literally like slapping his leg, like pointing at the screen like he wasn't already watching, being like, "Are you fucking? I've been saying this for like 10 years. I have been saying this
I know.
since fucking KOTOR 2 came out."
I fucking love that line, and his delivery of it is perfect when he's just like, "Can't you see that that's vanity?"
Oh, that was great. The part where the first lesson where he was like,
Yeah.
"This doesn't belong
Mark
to the
Hamill just
Jedi."
does such a fucking good job in that movie, like
He
top to
did a
bottom,
great
really.
job. Here's the one thing though, when he first shows up, even the second and third time that I saw the movie, when he first shows up and you hear his voice and it sounds the exact way that it did 30 years ago, except old, it really throws me off. And at first, I was like, "Oh, he can't act anymore." I was like, "Oh no, he just sounds different." Like it felt like he was delivering his lines wrong, and it was like, "No, he's delivering them right. He just sounds like an old man now."
I was actually kind of thrown off by how much he still sounded like the way he did back then,
Well,
which I know sounds stupid to say because he's the same person, but like now obviously Carrie Fisher lived kind of a hard life, but like she doesn't sound anything like she used to.
no, and she's also not. She was not affecting her like posh voice the same way.
That's oh yeah, okay, that's true.
But you actually said what I was trying to say in a better way, which is that like it sounded just like him but off because he's older, like by a lot.
Yeah.
And because it sounded so similar to him but off, it sounded like he was acting wrong. But it's just that's how he sounds now. That's sort of what I meant.
I kind of get what you're saying.
Yeah, it was a weird feeling and it's hard to describe.
You know,
But yeah, those lessons were really good. Apparently they cut a third one because it made him look too bad, and I really wish they hadn't. Apparently it was like some stage thing where he like pretended that something awful happened, and then when she freaks out, he was like, "That was a test." Or something. I don't know. I can't remember the details, but I read about it, and I wish they had kept it in because if it felt right in the script, just because it made Skywalker seem like a harsh teacher, he was trying to seem like a harsh teacher. You know, he was trying to scare her away from being a Jedi.
yeah. You know, it was funny because I like right before I saw the movie, it occurred to me that I had spent the last 2 years absolutely convinced that Luke's whole thing was going to be like, fuck Jedi, you shouldn't be a Jedi. I'm over here to like quietly die as the last Jedi. Like I ruined everything, like that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And it suddenly occurred to me, it was like, oh no, what if it's not, like, I don't even know how I would process it if
Oh
that
man,
turned out to not be what happened,
I
because I've spent so much time deciding that's exactly what was going to happen that I don't even know what is going to happen if it doesn't do that.
I had never even considered that. Like I tried actually pretty hard not to think about The Last Jedi at all. Um,
So
but like
do you
never
remember?
in my life did I expect that to happen ever.
Okay. Do you remember when I texted you about how I was listening to the Last Jedi episode of the Story Break podcast? Like,
Did you text
so
me that?
like,
No, I don't remember
yeah.
that.
Okay. So real quick, Story Break is a podcast where writers um, will take an hour to basically like hammer out like a script treatment for like what is usually a really goofy premise for a movie. But they had one episode where they said, okay, we all just watched The Force Awakens. Now let's spend an hour trying to make up our version of The Last Jedi. And I actually listened to it for like 5 minutes and then stopped because I was like, no, this is too good of an, like, Keith and I need to do this because we would make the best Last Jedi version ever.
Oh yeah,
And
that'd be a lot of fun. I wish that we did do that.
well, we could have, but we didn't.
I don't. Yeah, I didn't know that this was ever a thought that you had, or I would have jumped on it.
I'm pretty sure I texted it to you.
There, man,
I
I for real
I
don't
think I
remember it.
said I think I probably said like I'm listening to an episode of Story Break where they make up The Last Jedi. You and I should do that or something like that. But like that would basically all of, so then I spent like, instead of listening to that episode of the podcast, I just spent 2 hours in my own head doing that, and like most of it was centered around the idea of like Luke being like, Jedis are bad and we should not be Jedis.
That's great. I just like never thought Disney would allow that. Um,
Yeah, like
can we
what
talk about
I
Kylo Ren? I forgot to talk about Kylo Ren.
yeah, I mean,
We've basically not even brought him up. I'm
I
like, the more I think about him, and I just want to see what you have as a response to this sentence before I talk about what I
okay.
actually think. The more I think about Kylo Ren as he is presented in both The Force Awakens, from what I remember of it, a little hazy, and The Last Jedi, I'm really impressed by the way that they have characterized him.
Um, do you want to elaborate?
I want you to say how you feel, and then I will elaborate.
Okay. I really like Kylo Ren and the way he's been characterized a lot. I think the only criticism, maybe not the only one, but the biggest criticism I would give is like maybe in The Force Awakens they went a little too hard on the idea that he's so conflicted, because then it was just like, after A Force Awakens, I was like, where do you go with 2 more movies of that? It already feels like he has decided that he doesn't want to be a Sith or something. But I felt like they still did a good job with that character.
Yeah, I felt like they
And
brought it. I think they brought it to a very natural conclusion by the end.
I was shocked that they killed Snoke. I never thought that they would have done that in the second movie. That was crazy.
That never struck me as bizarre. I agree.
Really?
I understand why
He's
it's
the big
shocking to
bad
people,
guy.
but
That's like
he's
killing
not.
the
He's dead.
Emperor, and it's well, yeah, exactly. But like that, to me, it would be like as if they killed the Emperor in Empire Strikes Back instead of Return of the Jedi. You know.
So here's the thing. I want to. Can I
But
get
I think that's a good thing, though.
Can I get way Star Wars right now? Can I get like supreme Star Wars bullshit?
It would be weird if you didn't, I think.
Okay, so do you know / remember the Jedi Code?
Oh, no, but could I say that for a second? I thought you were about to ask me if you've ever told me the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise.
Oh, that would have been really funny. I was talking to Austin, who we were talking about. We were sort of talking about The Last Jedi, but not really. But we ended up. He brought up a sort of. It's not a conspiracy theory, but it is an idea that Darth Plagueis never existed, and it was just a made-up story, like a Jedi fairy tale that he told to Anakin, which I thought was really clever. Anyway, this is.
Sorry, real quick before you get the only reason I brought up the Darth Plagueis thing was because there was that fan theory that Snoke would secretly be Darth Plagueis, who didn't actually die but had been secretly waiting 1,000 years or something.
No,
And
nobody caught the Darth Plagueis thing from that movie. No one remembers who Darth Plagueis is, not in any meaningful way. They would never, a twist
No,
would never
yeah.
be that couched in lore.
I agree with you, but so that was the thing, was like I knew that it would never be that, but I was so in love with that idea that like my brain couldn't let it go.
That if that's what it was and they ran with that in a cool way, that would be fine with me. I just think he's a rich idiot. I think he's just like a rich guy. Kylo Ren is a fucking he's bad at being he's not very talented. He's like has a lot of innate talent, but he's not well trained. And so the idea that Kylo Ren could trick Snoke and kill him with a trick while Snoke was reading his mind is like, I don't think Snoke was ever that strong. That's the thing. Like, if Snoke was that strong,
that sounds believable.
The idea, that's why I kind of feel like, oh, they killed the big bad. It's like, dude, he was not. He did appear very big at first, but he was not that big. And
well, I think that's what's interesting about both of these new Star Wars movies is that both of them have gone out of their way to trick people. But like I think in a fun way. Like the first one, like they only ever showed Finn holding the lightsaber, and then like, oh, surprise, it's actually Rey that's like force sensitive and that kind of thing. And then in this one, I would say that killing Snoke in the second movie of a trilogy is kind of like a trick or like a surprise. The other thing was like there was that rampant fan theory, and I've like, it's almost hard to call it a fan theory because it's sort of like the conclusion that the movie was intentionally drawing you towards was that Rey and Kylo Ren are brother and sister.
I loved the conclusion of that.
Yeah, that was great. But it was like the movie went so hard on it because because the whole movie, Kylo Ren and Rey have that psychic link. Yeah. And then the other two characters in the movie that have that are Luke and Leia, who are brother and sister, and they even go as far as to have them. They have Luke and Leia psychically linked back to back with Rey and Kylo Ren doing the same thing, like from one scene to another, to sort of like hammer home like, oh, they're brother and sister, and then they kind of like twist it at the end.
Yeah, no, I thought it was really good. I think it's like that's another thing where they spit in the face of like stuff like George Lucas's fucking bag of tricks. One of the biggest ones is like
everyone's a Skywalker.
Everyone's a Skywalker. Everyone's related to each other. The people that are related to each other all have the Force, and the fucking keys to being the at the center of the universe is passed down through generations. All you have to do is be part of the right bloodline, and all of a sudden you're a star player in the Star Wars universe. And that's some dumb-ass, stupid fucking bullshit. I don't care about your dumb-ass Force Dynasty. It's super shitty. And then, so, like, when they say, like, oh, Rey is just Force sensitive, there's nothing else special about her. Kylo Ren tries to say, like, you don't even belong in this story. But then Rey is talented enough that she's like, no, I belong in this story because the fact that I'm not related to you doesn't mean jack shit, and I'm going to blow a lightsaber up in your goddamn face, you idiot.
Yeah, no, I like that. So when you brought up that line about like you don't even belong in this story, I love that line, and I actually think that's actually one of the best examples of when the movie was kind of acknowledging that it knows it's a movie, but like in a much better way than some of the other moments. I mean, I think it plays a lot to like key players in the world who feel like the playing out of their machinations is a game, and Kylo Ren feels like the playing out of his machinations is a game, and Rey isn't a part of it because she isn't related to the guy that he believes is his enemy. Yeah. It's like, you're not supposed to be special. Like, I'm not supposed to have to care about you. Like, why are you in my face right now?
Exactly. And then, one of the other fucking things is like one of the fan theories is that the little boy at the end who is the slave and moves the broom with the Force is like actually the secret Skywalker, and I just wanted to roll my eyes out of my head. It's like,
It's
oh
like,
my god,
how hard could you not get? That's
I
literally
know.
the opposite
No.
of what that is supposed to put in your head.
I know it sucks.
It's
it fucking
literally what it
sucks.
is saying is, I was gonna say what I really like about this movie so much, and we've already mentioned it's why some people don't like it, is that it is constantly going out of its way to force you to question what you think you know about Star Wars.
Yeah, for sure.
So like I love the part where Benicio del Toro's character shows that
Really loved him.
Yeah, the First Order and the Resistance both buy their weapons from like the same people and stuff. I think that was great.
When he betrays them and he looks sort of guilty. He looks like sort of guilty, but then at the end he's just like, maybe I'm wrong, like maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but see ya, I've got the stacks. Sorry.
I was actually, as I was driving home tonight, I sort of like had this moment of like almost horror where I realized like, oh, that's just another. They were just doing a reverse of the. They were doing a reverse of Lando, because Lando was supposed to be like a scumbag that you trusted, but then actually you shouldn't have trusted him, but then he turns good at the end. And it was like the opposite, where like he's like a scumbag that you don't trust, then it turns out he's a good guy, then he turns on them at the end.
I felt like he was more. I mean, that analogy also makes sense. I felt like he was more of like a Han Solo, where he seemed like a seedy guy out for his own self-interest. But oh no, actually Han Solo has a heart of gold. But they were like, no, Benicio del Toro, aka DJ, aka Don't Join, is his name. He doesn't have a heart of gold. He just is a seedy scumbag. Like the universe isn't filled with like handsome scoundrels that actually turn out to be heroes and gentlemen.
Yeah. But I do like you said, he does look guilty. Like, I think he genuinely does feel bad that he's screwing those guys over. But it's like he literally says in the line, he's like, look, man, we got caught. I cut a deal. Like, sorry, man. Like,
yeah,
it's just,
sorry.
Got to look out for number one.
Yeah, like I'm not here to die with you guys.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, oh man, okay, I really want to get back to the Jedi Code thing from earlier with regard to Kylo Ren. But the other thing is like. The through line of the sort of the Poe Dameron, like don't just jump into a suicide mission because it's a suicide mission, where like Finn comes to him with this, Finn and Rose come to him with this plan of let's sneaking on the thing, and if they had never done that, hundreds of more people would be alive. That they not only did they fail in their mission, they directly caused the death of every single person escaping on those shuttles.
I would have to see the movie again to remember the exact.
I can explain it real quick.
That led to that.
Sure. Benicio del Toro, if he was never on the ship, would never have been able to say, "Hey, they're trying to sneak out in these pods that we never would have been able to see."
Okay, sure.
So if they had all just stayed on the rebellion ships, then they would have just escaped scot-free. Like,
you know why that happened, Keith?
Why is that?
Dark middle chapter.
Dark middle chapter.
This is the dark middle chapter.
Middle chapter.
I mean, there was some definite darkness there. Basically like everybody except 10 people in the systems being killed.
They said that they had 400 people on 3 ships. That's what they said. And then when they were in that fucking salt mine, there was a dozen people, 2 dozen
12
people.
So I'm guessing there's probably going to be a pretty big time jump between this one and the next movie.
Yeah.
But how fucking dope was that? I actually thought that was going to be basically the end of the movie. That's like every movie now is like, oh, this movie's over. Oh God, we're only at Act 2.
That was a long movie. That was a 2.5 hour long movie.
Yeah. But like every movie's 2.5 hours now.
Yeah, that's fair. Which I don't mind. I like that. I like long movies. I like give me the story. Like give me the. I also like short movies. Give me the story. Like if the story is 90 minutes long and it feels right, give it to me. If it's 2.5 hours and it feels right, give it to me. I don't get like restless during movies that are really good.
For me, I totally do. Like before I went to the theater, I actually first checked to see online if there was some kind of like Oscar screener torrent thing I could download, not because I didn't want to pay to see the movie, but just because I wanted to watch it at home.
Yeah, I also get that feeling. Like, I understand that. I really enjoy going to the movies, even by myself, or almost sometimes especially by myself. I think it's a nice, like, thing to do, and I like sitting in the thing and watching the big screen and having popcorn. I really want to go back to the Kylo Ren Jedi Code thing.
We'll get to everything. I think I had something I was gonna say about the what I just wanted to bring up was I really loved the part where the character whose name I can't remember jumps to light speed at the fleet of Star Destroyers. That was fucking dope.
Wait, which part?
The part where the like commander who takes over for Leia.
Oh, that was amazing. That was like
I love that.
It was a satisfying conclusion to a character with a really complicated arc, and it was visually and auditorily stunning. It was beautiful.
Yeah. And in a way,
like
it was
10 or 15 seconds of complete silence. I have never been in a movie theater and heard that much quiet.
It was very quiet. And to me, what I loved about it is, in a way, it was almost like a payoff from all the way back in the original Star Wars when Han gives that little like diatribe about jumping to light speed and how you could, like fly right through a star or something if you're not careful.
Yeah, that's very good.
We
also
finally got like a payoff on that.
And it's a great conclusion. I know I said broadly that it was a great conclusion to that character's very complicated arc, but it was sort of like it was sort of like the foil specifically to that character, Laura Dern. Can't remember her name.
Who is that person? Like I was so distracted the whole time. I was like, I know this person from something and somewhere, but I don't know where.
It was Laura Dern. Laura Dern was in Jurassic Park, Blue Velvet.
I mean, I've seen both of those, but I don't. That must not be where I'm thinking. I don't know.
Let me see. I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff. She's in a lot of fucking things. All right, whatever. Yeah, she was in all of the Jurassic Parks, I think.
Sorry, someone in the chat says Darth Middle Chapter.
I saw that. That was really funny.
Real quick, the fucking kid with the broom. Mm-hmm. It's not a secret. The whole point of that scene, guys, is to try to say like, hey man, there's millions of people across this galaxy that are ready to fight, the First Order. And and there's more Force sensitive people out there that are just waiting to be trained into Jedi. That's the point of that scene.
And also that like no matter how fucking dead the Jedi actually are, it's not like that is like a sort of like weak tea visual representation of what Luke Skywalker was saying with the first lesson that he gave, where like the Force is everywhere and in everything, but like the sort of weakest version of that, which works very well visually for this scene, is that like even if Luke and Rey are dead, there's people out there that can feel the Force like they can.
Right. It's like saying like just because like Jedi is just an organization of people and a name and whatever. Like you can't get rid of Force sensitive people even if there's no more Jedi. Oh, I think I'm way like an hour ago what I was trying to say was how like it's not the Empire, it's the First Order, it's not the Rebels, it's the Resistance. I almost thought that they were really going to kill off the idea of Jedi and say like, no, Force sensitive warriors are a different name now.
Yeah, well, I actually had some tweets about this before I had seen the movie that I think hold up kind of well. I said this is on December 15th. I didn't see the movie for another week or so. I said they call Luke the Last Jedi, but he's really some dude with a glow sword that had like a week of summer school with the real Last Jedi.
Dude, yeah.
Like, Luke is a Jedi.
Was the thing.
I just one more tweet. Luke is a Jedi the way someone with with good penmanship and a calligraphy set is a calligrapher. Like he, like, you know what I mean? That's a good analogy.
What I was gonna say at some point was the only little bit that was missing for me from like Luke's whole like the Jedi should end thing was him going further by saying like not only was I a shitty teacher, but I was a shitty teacher because let's be honest, I was never properly trained.
He was never
Like,
properly trained. That's the second hubris that he never said, which is like, I thought I could rebuild the Jedi Order and I didn't fucking know what the Jedi Order was. And if I did know what the Jedi Order was, I never fucking would have tried to rebuild it.
Oh, dang. See, we would still make a better Last Jedi.
We still would, yeah. No, yeah. There's no way that we wouldn't make a better Last Jedi.
But the thing is, like, for us, like, the entire Last Jedi would just be Luke and Rey on a mountain, and Luke just constantly being like, "No, the Jedi are garbage."
It would be 2 hours of him just keeping throwing the lightsaber into the ocean.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Like when she hands him the lightsaber, I was literally just watching the screen, and in my head, I was like, "Throw it, throw it, throw it, throw it, throw it," and then he throws it, and I'm like, "Yes."
Really, I didn't see it coming at all. I had no clue, because like there were all these articles that were like Luke, Mark Hamill talks about like the meaning of the Last Jedi and Luke Skywalker, like the term, like him being the Last Jedi, not the movie itself, or like here are the first words that Luke Skywalker says in the movie, and it all seems so self-important that I was like, there's no way that this is actually interesting at all, and then it was, it was interesting. What were we just talking about? I want to talk about what we were just talking about, and then I have to do the Jedi Code thing. I need to go back to Kylo Ren.
We were just talking about Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
Can you get more specific, please?
Somebody mentioned something about a Jedi Code.
No. The other thing that we were just talking about. Maybe someone in the chat remembers what we were just talking about?
I don't think I don't think we were left anything hanging now.
Sorry, what I mean was, before I read this tweet, what were we just fucking talking about? Like, just a second ago. Not like, what thread did we leave hanging? What were the subject?
Like, we were talking about Luke and how if we made The Last Jedi, it would just be like 2.5 hours of Luke talking about how the Jedi are garbage.
No, that was after the tweet. Whatever. Well, maybe I'll remember what we're talking about. Jacob the Thing said, talking about Luke Skywalker, I thought he said to Yoda he never read the books. He implied that he had not, or he implied that he was not like super familiar with what's in them. I think the idea was that he read some of it and it was not interesting and he stopped. That's what I got out of it.
I thought he had read the books.
To me, it implied that he was not super familiar with them, but was keeping them because they were a relic of a thing that he claimed to not care about. And then Yoda very, very funnily tested that proclamation by setting them on fire, or so we thought at the time. A little bit disappointed that those books were in the last shot of the drawer.
Yeah, because there was that was the thing was like the movie kind of says it spends a lot of time saying like Jedi aren't that great, but then at the end it's sort of like, oh, but don't worry, she's got all those books to learn exactly how to Jedi or whatever.
And then Yoda, who's gleefully destroying the place where they're being held, obviously would know that the books were not in there.
Exactly.
Which is a little bit disappointing. Anyway, I'm willing to overlook them walking that back. I take from it what it implies.
Yeah, I think it is less to do with like an endorsement of the Jedi Order of the past and more just how to answer the question like how does Rey become trained as some kind of Jedi if there's no one around to train her. And it's like, she's got these textbooks.
Arsenic Axolotl says Laura Dern's storyline was a satisfying resolution. I mean, it was a satisfying resolution for Laura Dern's character, yeah.
No, that was their response to you asking what we were talking about.
Nah, it was something else. It doesn't matter. Well, let's talk about the Jedi Code thing. I want to talk about Kylo Ren. So I want to get like really deep in on like what I feel like they're doing with Kylo Ren and what, like how, where he fits into Jedi or Sith.
I think what I like about Kylo Ren is they're sort of just mirroring the Darth Vader storyline, but they're kind of saying like instead of Darth Vader where he was basically just 100% evil the whole time and then he was really really conflicted like right at the end, like what if we expanded that out and actually did something with
You're
that?
stepping on my thing that I've been trying to do for an hour with the Jedi code shit.
Oh, I'm fucking sorry, dude. Go ahead with the Jedi code.
All right.
thing.
So the first thing that I want to do, I mention this all the time. There's a blurb on during loading screens in the first Knights of the Old Republic game, where it says people call this war between the Jedi and the Sith the Jedi Civil War because people don't know what the fuck the difference is between the Jedi and the Sith. Most people don't care. They live on planets that have nothing to do with the Jedi or the Sith, and when they see someone with the lights, it's great. I'm expounding it out. It was really just the first sentence where, like to a normal person, a Jedi and a Sith are identical. That is like that little blurb on a loading screen in KOTOR 1 is the kernel of KOTOR 2. Like it's the seed of the tree that is KOTOR 2, and like some of the leaves from that tree got into The Last Jedi somehow, and it's great.
Exactly.
So hold on to that. Then the second thing is that the Jedi have a code, and it is a distillation for me of everything wrong with the Jedi, or not everything, but like how warped their core philosophy is.
Yeah. Could I just say this thing just popped into my head is like if you're obsessed with the idea of Jedi being great and whatever, it's like, aren't you kind of just saying that the only way to stop a bad guy with the only person who can stop a bad guy with a lightsaber is a good guy with a lightsaber?
Yeah,
like,
think
exactly
about it. What you're saying. Although I don't want to discount that in this case it's true because those people have superpowers and they're incredibly dangerous. And instead of having, what if we lived in a world where every criminal used to be a cop? Like 100% of these criminals were cops first. Because the Sith is not a thing. The Sith is an ancient race of like red-skinned aliens that mated with ex-Jedi and created a race that is now extinct. And every single Sith from that point forward is just a Jedi that is having a bad day and says, I'm a fucking Sith now. Get ready. I'm going to murder a planet.
I'm fucking Sithed out. You know what I liked about what they did with Kylo Ren in this storyline was
I really need to get to my fucking point here, man.
Okay, all right, just get to
I swear I've been so fucking patient.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
Okay, so Jedi Code, it is sort of the distillation of everything that's wrong with the philosophy of the Jedi. Really interestingly, the Code of the Sith, which is it is sort of like a mirror of the Jedi Code. It's sort of like wouldn't exist if the Jedi Code didn't exist, is a perfect distillation of the actual essence of the Sith. Because the Sith are just a shitty mirror to the even shittier Jedi. So I'm going to read both of the codes. So the Jedi Code goes sort of like this. There's a few versions of it. This is the most popular. There is no emotion, there is peace. There is no ignorance, there is knowledge. There is no passion, there is serenity. There is no chaos, there is harmony. There is no death, there is the Force. Two specific lines in this stand out. There is no emotion, there is peace.
Though,
yeah.
To be fair, these codes that you're reading, I mean, they're not exactly canon, aren't they? Just from Knights of the Old Republic, like they were written.
No, these are canon. Those were canon before the Knights of the Republic movie.
Okay.
Yeah. So there is no emotion, there is peace, and there is no passion, there is serenity. Those are the two things. That's sort of like, I don't know the word for this. Like the sort of pious monk.
It totally reminds me of what's terrible about like a lot of the leadership in Catholicism is like, let's pretend like we don't have any negative emotion, like just repress everything.
That's exactly
and
it.
then
And then
great.
go, and then like that's what a fucking Sith really is it's someone that had emotion and passion. And they suppress it, and then they fucking explode because everyone around them is like the things that like the bubbling underneath your surface is not something that we can talk about. It's something that is literally against who you're supposed to be, and you're fucking bad now. Sorry, dude, you're bad. And then so the Sith code, but that doesn't. So like that code, someone that follows that code is not a good Jedi. But the code of the Sith, is really what a Sith is, and that's where Kylo Ren comes in.
Wait,
the Sith code,
I'm sorry. Can you
That's
explain again? I think I missed. You said a Jedi that follows
the Jedi code isn't a good Jedi because that way of living is a bad way of living. Sorry, they aren't a good person. They're a good Jedi according to the Jedi organization. They are a bad Jedi according to Jedi as guardians of peace and justice in the galaxy, and instead are a ticking time bomb.
A quick aside: was it Rogue One that established that the home planet of the Jedi was Jedha?
Yes. It fucking it's a different. I hate it.
Sense.
The good. No, it's stupid.
Go on with
so
the Sith
dumb.
Code. Sith code.
But a Sith that follows the Sith code is following the Sith. You can track where a Sith is in their development by reading the Sith code, which is peace is a lie. There is only passion. Through passion, I gain strength. Through strength, I gain power. Through power, I gain victory. Through victory, my chains are broken. The Force shall free me.
That actually makes sense.
It makes a lot of fucking sense, right?
Yeah, so like when you hear the Sith, you're like, that makes that at least is logical. Whereas when you hear the Jedi one, you're like, that's just a bunch of nonsense.
It is. But you see how this is an exact mirror. This is a sort of like, it is the -1 to 1. Like, it doesn't exist without the number 1. But like, if you think about, like, Emperor Palpatine had power and then won, right? Vader, one step lower, had strength, gained power, didn't really win.
His chains were not broken.
He
won. Oh, like he won, but he was below the Emperor.
He was below the Emperor, and as we know from the Rule of Two, the path of a Sith is to eventually murder and overtake your master.
I know you're a big Star Wars nerd, so you probably know this. Where did that idea come from? Because I'm only familiar with it from
I know exactly where this
monologue at the end of Phantom Menace, and it's so fucking stupid.
Darth.
All right,
I believe it was Darth Bane. Yeah, it was Darth Bane.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Where did it come from? Like in real life?
Oh, in real life? Oh,
like,
I don't know.
Like
I know where it came from in lore.
The Phantom Menace, the first part where it came from, or was there?
I don't know. I have no idea. I really don't. Let's see. Okay.
That's always been one of the worst things about the prequels to me is that they said that there's only ever 2 Sith.
Oh wow! It was
Jedi...
created by George Lucas as part of his backstory for the Sith developed for the prequel trilogy.
Okay, so that is where it comes from. It's such a stupid idea, right? Because
I think it's a stupid idea, except
there's
for
like
that
hundreds or thousands of Jedi, and there's supposed to only be 2 Sith. That doesn't make any sense.
Okay, so that's sort of a misunderstanding of what the Rule of Two is meant to be. The Rule of Two is that there can only be one top Sith, right? And then his apprentice. There can be as many Dark Jedi as you can have. But the reason why there's only one is because there used to be so much Sith infighting that they were just constantly in civil war because they're assholes, and they were killing each other and not killing the Jedi. And this guy, Darth Bane, goes, hey, in order to stop, we're just going to pick one guy to be in charge, and we're going to have his number 2, and everyone else is peons. And the way that you become number 1 is by killing number 1.
At the end of the Phantom Menace, this line that I'm talking about, Yoda says, and I'll say it verbatim. He says, "Always 2 there are, a master and an apprentice, no more, no less."
I mean, because Lucas doesn't know how to fucking write a movie, is why. That's stupid. It's just like the actual in practice definition, I guess, evolves from that line into something usable.
It's like everything. It's like half the stuff in Star Wars. It's like George Lucas says something really fucking stupid, and then a bunch of people that are smarter have to be like, okay, how do we fix this within the canon of Star Wars so that it makes sense?
The Dax Nelson says there are 4 different canons. The Lucas movies, the expanded universe, and the KOTOR stuff, and the new movie canons. Until Disney, the KOTOR stuff was part of the official canon, included in the movie shit. It is only now that the canon is all fractured and weird. I don't have a problem that they made all the other stuff not canon. The only problem arises when the new stuff that they come up with is dumber and worse. The Jedi stuff, all of the original Jedi origin story stuff is much more interesting. Anyway, so the thing that makes Kylo Ren so interesting to me is that he is someone who has been thrust onto like this galactic stage of like intergalactic domination, but he is fucking stuck between through passion I gain strength. He has not yet gained strength. He just has passion. And, like, you can tell, like, there was this fucking beautiful shot in The Last Jedi. I remember when his lightsaber was the controversy where it was dumb that he had, like, lightsaber, like crossbars on his thing. The fucking ferocious, like crackling and snapping that his lightsaber has is fucking genius. It is not only visually stunning, it also is a perfect distillation of Kylo Ren as a character who is just like bubbling and boiling all of the time, and he has all of this and then so there's this part where he faces off with the Force hologram of Luke Skywalker, and he whips out his lightsaber and he does this goofy pose, and he turns it on, and it's like this bubbling, crackling, boiling lightsaber, and then it cuts to Luke, who has this pristine blue blade that has it just has this pure hum, no imperfections. It is like the exact shot that I think defines Kylo Ren as a character. He has this like brutish, like he's like hulked over, and he's got his awful. He's
the galaxy's preeminent piss baby.
He's the galaxy's preeminent piss baby, and that's the thing. Like when that movie, when The Force Awakens had trailers and stuff, I remember looking at it and be like, oh man, Kylo Ren is supposed to be cool and he's lame. It's like, no, he's supposed to be lame.
He's supposed to be lame, yeah.
He's supposed to be lame. Like, they fucking nailed exactly what they were going for.
Snoke just looks at his helmet, just goes like, take off that ridiculous.
And I really love that helmet. I really loved the way that it made his voice sound. It was great. I love the way his voice sounds, yeah. The voice, so the helmet to me was what keeps him. Think of like the Sith from the movies or from game. Like, there's a few outliers, but like if you think of Darth Vader, you think of Emperor Palpatine, you think of Darth Maul, they're calm. They're like these calm rage storms. You think of Snoke. Snoke isn't, and Kylo Ren even more isn't. And that's because they suck. They're not good enough to be Sith. And I think that like that is such a fucking like that helmet is what is the mask that he puts on to play real Sith.
Exactly.
And when he takes the helmet off,
he's trying to be Darth Vader. He's trying to be his granddaddy.
When he takes it off and he smashes it, which was a great scene. And I was disappointed that the helmet's gone because I really love how it made his voice sound.
But like I get it because it's like once you show his face, you can't go back really.
But I think it works really well to like highlight that he's playing pretend.
But I think it kind of I think in The Last Jedi as opposed to the first movie, it's like he's kind of already shown his hand. Like he can't really pretend that he's this big badass anymore because he failed in the first movie. So like everybody knows that he failed.
Yeah. And so I love that it's destroyed. I love that they took it out of the movie. Like, what is he going to do? Show up in the next one? J.J. Abrams says, like, no, he made a new helmet. He's so lame.
I see you have constructed a new helmet.
Yeah. I just like that helmet is him. It's like how he steels himself to be how a Sith is supposed to be, and then to
Right,
watch him
exactly.
destroy it, and then he has this movie of complete turmoil, like absolute
Yeah.
turmoil, and it doesn't. But he sucks, so it doesn't end with,
I
oh, I guess I shouldn't try to rule the universe. It's just like, no, I should try to rule the universe without this asshole telling me I suck all the time.
yeah,
And that's what
exactly.
he's like. I'm done with the helmet. I'm done with my parents who I killed. I'm done with Luke Skywalker who I tried to kill. I'm done with Snoke who's always bullying me.
Who I killed.
Like I'm just gonna be this raging asshole. Like he's yelling, like when he tells him to fire all the guns on, he just can't stop being angry. Like, and
Yeah.
because he can't stop being angry, he can't start being actually strong. Because
Right.
that's like the one piece of the Jedi code that I guess actually applies is that when you're spending all your time being angry and throwing a fit, you can't think about what you actually should be doing.
Right.
Anyway, that's my spiel about why Kylo Ren is fucking a really good character.
As you were talking about Kylo Ren, I had a thought about him, and I was about to say it, and then realized, oh, I think I said this exact same thing on the Force Awakens spoiler cast. But it occurs to me that like Kylo Ren is probably a lot like what Anakin Skywalker was right after Episode 3 that we never got to see.
Yeah,
Is like the
yeah,
guy that's just like really like kind of like both like ashamed and upset about what he did and really mad about like
yes,
mad at the people that like he feels like made him do that
yeah,
and
yeah.
like
And
that
he's
kind of
just
stuff.
here's the other thing is that he like I feel like like in my perfect version, like in the way that I construct the story when I watch it is that like Luke Skywalker makes this horrible mistake of turning his lightsaber on when his sleeping
Yeah.
student is in front of him, right?
Yeah,
And
I
then
like that they kind of make his turn a little bit more sympathetic and it makes
yeah.
him a lot more interesting.
And again, that happened because Luke Skywalker was never properly trained and had no business running a fucking school.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And when Kylo Ren lashes out and he thinks he kills Luke Skywalker and he slays the rest of the real quick sidebar. So glad that the Knights of Ren never became anything. Remember that?
The Knights. Oh boy.
Remember
No.
that?
Like I mean, yes, but no.
Yeah, it was just like this thing
I
that was
guess
supposed to
it's-
happen and never happened.
Oh, right, because
He was
that's
supposed
what
to
they're
be one of
supposed
the
to be.
Knights
Is
of
they're
Ren.
not Sith. They're Kylo Ren because he's
Yeah.
Kylo Ren.
Yeah,
Just like
yeah.
instead of being Darth something, he's something Ren.
Yeah. Well, but like, yeah, it's dumb, and they never did anything with it, and that's good because it was dumb.
Well,
anyway,
here's the thing though. But in the next movie, I bet he's gonna have an apprentice that he's even worse at teaching, and he'll be
Yeah.
something Ren.
Victor Wren or something. Anyway, so
I think Lee Korzak might actually end up joining the Knights.
Lee
of Ren, I'm
Korzak
not
Wren,
sure.
yeah.
Oh, I wanted to say this. You were talking about how like you said something about like George Lucas is an idiot or whatever.
Yeah.
You remember The Force Unleashed, and they have that like non-canon character who's called Star Killer, and he's like Darth Vader's apprentice.
Yeah, the original Skywalker name.
Yeah, exactly. Did you know that when they were talking, they told George Lucas this story? They were kind of like running it by him because I'm sure he got to know everything that was happening with Star Wars.
Yeah.
And George Lucas suggested, I think they might not have had the name Star Killer yet, and they didn't have a name, and George Lucas suggested two Sith names for that character. Do you know what they were?
No, I don't.
Darth Icky and Darth Insanius.
No way.
So
No
yeah, George Lucas
way.
super doesn't
He
understand.
fucking
what's cool about
lost
Star
his
Wars.
mind. Well, you've
'cause
heard the theory about how his then wife edited all those movies so that they made sense.
I think
The
I
first
heard that,
three,
yeah.
like she was like a big
Yeah.
part of making it not shitty. That's what I had heard. I don't
Which
think anybody's seen
I
those
heard that
original
in-
scripts.
Not to, I mean, if that is true, I'm not trying to take anything away from her, but like, I think that could also just be people trying to figure out trying to explain to themselves why the first 3 Star Wars movies were good and the prequels were dog shit. But I think the real answer is because there was 30 years in between those two
Of
things.
forgetting how to do anything. 30
Yeah, I
years
mean,
of not
that
of like
happens,
just
man. Like
loafing.
how many people, like how many music artists were like revolutionary 30 years ago, and now they put out albums and people are like, these are dog shit.
Darth Icky.
Darth Insanius.
Darth Insane.
Because you look back and it's like, yeah, Darth Sidious, Darth Maul, like they were pretty silly, but they didn't get that bad.
They were silly, but Star Wars is silly. Anyway, so my point is about Kylo Ren is that in my version of how I am watching these movies, all of Kylo Ren's actions come as him doubling down on the mistake that he won't admit that he made. Like he feels that he made a mistake by killing everybody that he loved.
Yeah. I guess if that's a mistake.
And then like the conflict comes from like in order to not go insane, he had to in order to not go totally insaneous, he had to double down on like how he was feeling at the time. And so he's like, in order to not lose his mind, he's got to be this fucking like rage machine.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've all to a certain extent had those moments, and some people that have a lot of anger issues experience this more than other people, is like that moment of like you lose your cool in the moment and maybe say or do something that's like really over the line, and then it's kind of like, well, here we go, no going back from this, I guess. Like, I guess I'm losing this job or losing all these friends that I'm yelling at right now, or like, something like that. It's just sort of like, well, it's done, so I guess I might as well keep going because
I slaughtered them like animals. The women.
The women.
And the children. I really like that
too.
scene. I'm like the only person in the world that feels like that was a well-executed scene.
Like animals.
Yeah.
We probably... You probably won me over more than anything in that. But, this reminded me, like, you brought up Attack of the Clones. Like, I think you can sort of criticize the Last Jedi for trying to mirror The Empire Strikes Back in so many ways, but then George Lucas explicitly said that he was trying to do the same thing with Attack of the Clones, and you can just go look at how bad you can go if you...
He was trying to do the same thing as what?
He was like, so The Last Jedi does a lot of like echoing of things that happened in The Empire Strikes Back, and George Lucas was intending to do the same thing when he made Attack of the Clones. Like, that was supposed to echo things in The Empire Strikes Back. And I was just saying, like, that can just show you how wrong that idea can go.
Sorry, for
guys,
sure.
I think we lost Keith. I think he's gone now.
No, I was not gone. I was just not paying attention for a second. I mean, I was listening. I just wasn't in front of my mic. I agree. Those whole movies are supposed to, like, each movie is supposed to mirror the other movie, and it doesn't do a good job. Anyway, the original idea behind the 6 movies was that it was supposed to be like a fucking, it was supposed to be a like fucking.
You
like
mean the
tilting
first movie being Episode 4?
No, it's for the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy both. Like, the original idea was it was supposed to be like a tilting at windmills adventure following the bumbling C-3PO and R2-D2 as they watch these galactic events unfold.
Yeah.
And that is a much more interesting backdrop that they should have leaned on more heavily, I think, in the prequels, because instead it became it became about these geopolitical galactopolitical events instead of galactic political events through the eyes of bumbling robots and their companions. Anyway, I have a friend who described the prequel trilogy in a really interesting way, which is that the original trilogy are great movies that execute perfectly a really tired story formula, where the prequel trilogy is a really poorly executed version of a fresh story idea, which is like there's always it is very rarely shown on film a a civilization in decline. That story almost never gets told.
Yeah, that's really hard to do. Like,
And
yeah,
they did
it's
it.
like
They
the
tried,
ideas
and if
that he was,
they
yeah, the ideas he was going for in the prequels were some good ideas, but they were really hard ideas to execute on, and he did not execute on them.
Yeah. If they had nailed it, those would have been incredibly interesting movies. And instead, it takes a lunatic like me to watch them and enjoy them enough, and watch them enough times to dig out the fucking little gems and stretch them out into something that I can enjoy.
Because if you remember, there was a fair amount of political stuff in the first
Yeah.
Star Wars too. Like, it took me years and years before I could actually understand what the fuck they were talking about in that boardroom scene where they talk about like dissolving the Empire's like direct control over the systems in the galaxy and whatever.
Yeah, that stuff was really good. And you had like the push and pull of the Tarkins and or sorry, the Moffs, not the Tarkins. I'm an idiot.
Okay. Yeah, there was
The Moffs and Grand Moff Tarkin being one of the Moffs.
Right.
They're the push and pull of them working sort of politically with the Emperor, and the Emperor working sort of spiritually with Vader, and those two parts of the story conflicting is very interesting. They almost tried to do that kind of a little bit with the prequel trilogy. It did not come through well enough. No one even realized that Jar Jar Binks was a Sith.
that was probably the biggest flub in Lucas's handling of the prequel movies, is that he just did a terrible job of telegraphing that Jar Jar Binks was a secret Sith. Like,
man, that is maybe my favorite fan theory of all time, and I really like it a lot. That Jar Jar Binks is secretly a Sith.
Very much.
I really think it's fun and good. The idea that the entire prequel trilogy was working towards this reveal that Jar Jar Binks had been working against him all the time, or the whole time, but that people hated his character so much that at the last second they had to entirely change the last movie. That's great. That's a great theory. That's a very profound, series altering.
Wait,
like some fan theories are just like maybe that boy.
I don't think the fan theory has anything to do with them altering their plan for Jar Jar Binks in like pre-production or something.
Yeah, no, that was the
whole. I thought the whole theory is just supposed to be Jar Jar Binks becomes a senator intentionally so that he can cast a vote to like dissolve democracy.
Well, yeah, but the twist was supposed to be that in the third movie, he was supposed to come out to have been actively working for Palpatine the entire time, and would then be revealed to be the new Sith apprentice,
right
after Maul,
right.
But then because
like,
he was so hated,
you said something. Yeah, I don't get what like.
Well, there's three movies, and there's a lot of time in between those movies, and so after two, they had to rewrite the. First of all, this didn't fucking happen. That's why it doesn't make any sense.
I know.
It didn't happen.
I know. If you're confused listening to this, we're arguing about a made up fan theory. But I'm saying, if the character was so hated, wouldn't it then be appropriate for him to turn out to be a villain? Because then you could be like, hey guys, that character you hated, he was a villain the whole time. You're supposed to hate him.
No, it was the studio. The ideas of the studio was like, you can't have this fucking character on the screen anymore. Get him out of there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, he was barely in the second one.
Yeah, but
he
was
actually in the third one more than the second one, if I am remembering correctly.
I think you may be remembering incorrectly, but
God damn it, Keith.
I think you may.
Well, okay.
Do your best Jabba the Hutt impression.
Jabba the Hutt?
Yeah, let's hear it.
I don't know, because he doesn't speak English, so I'm trying to think of, like, do I even have any go-to clips? Like, do I have any
You could just
Huttese,
do
like, stuck in my head?
sounding shit. That's probably not problematic, huh? To imitate Huttese.
I don't know. I
How about
What
you
is
start with his laugh? Let's hear his laugh.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about. It was he had that like, oh, ho, 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 ho,
Yeah, that's a
ho,
good hunt
ho,
laugh.
ho,
Dude, this is the first time I've ever tried to get you to do an impression of something and you actually did it. It was a laugh.
That's not true. I've done
I
something.
think so. Say something about Solo.
Yeah, we're like psychically linked. I was just like thinking like, oh, there was that part where he says something Solo.
Yeah, he's like, I don't want a Solo.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Um,
Yeah, I don't.
you got anything more about this movie? You got anything more about this
Oh,
movie?
I think these dogs have something to say about this movie.
Yo, dogs, what you got to say about these movies?
You know, the fucked up part is like I'm feeling like I don't have anything left to say about this movie, but I know as soon as it occurs to me now, like a week ago, I was thinking like maybe we should get like a plot synopsis of this movie and just go through it scene by scene because then at least we won't miss anything. Because I know we're gonna end this podcast.
When I was ready to,
oh, this thing.
When I was ready to record, like the day that I saw it, and then the day after I saw it, I was like ready to go, and then now it's been like 5 days, and I'm no longer that ready to go. Let's see. I could look up real quick a plot synopsis, and then we can just edit that out.
All right.
I feel like we haven't talked a lot about Rey. But I also feel like there's not that stuff really felt straightforward for me.
Yeah, I think a lot of Rey's stuff ended up. Oh, you know what I was surprised by?
What?
I thought for sure because there's that part at the beginning where she sees Luke's X-wing. I was gonna say buried, but it's not buried beneath water, right? Or it's just sunk under the water.
Yeah, sunk.
I thought for sure they were going to use that to do like maybe they did do it and they ultimately cut it, but I thought for sure they were going to do like a mirroring of the scene from Empire where he makes the X-wing rise out of the swamp. That they were going to do X-wing rises out of the ocean.
For me, the thing that I thought they were setting up was like a really weak red herring foreshadow where you see the ship and then when Luke shows up at the end and you're like, oh, well, he got there from the ship. He got the ship out.
Oh, okay,
he got the ship out and flew there. Like if you didn't see the ship, he wouldn't have had any way off the planet. He was just stuck there.
I thought it was. I thought it was really weird. Well, first of all, I'm really glad that Luke's like force projection thing at the end ended up being a force projection and not him really being there because I thought that would have been pretty lame. But I thought it was weird that his like projection was also like de-aged, like he had less gray hair and stuff.
I think what he did, I think they wanted you to think. Here's two things. I think they wanted you to think when you watch it to be like, oh, he gave himself a haircut so that he would look more presentable for being a legend that shows up. And then I think what I
think they wanted to give people what they wanted. Like I think they wanted to at least for one scene give people like the Luke Skywalker that maybe people were hoping for in their heads before they saw the movie or something.
Well, that's what I mean. I think they wanted. Okay, this is complicated. We're just talking about like what people watching the movie expect, and then also what different characters in the universe want them to expect. I think they want you to think. I think they want the viewer to think, oh, he gave himself a haircut to be a Jedi. Like they wanted you to be like, oh, he's serious. He's not this like hermit anymore. He's come here to look presentable. Yeah. I think that they want. I think then after it's revealed that he's a hologram, I think what they want you to feel is he wanted to look the way that Leia remembered him.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Because he comments on how she says, she's like, I know what you came here to say, implying like he came to say sorry, but he's like, oh, you changed your hair, which is funny. And then afterwards, do I have another point? I don't know. I don't remember my last point.
I was going to say this. I remembered another Luke thing that I really liked. I think this might have been the laser sword comment, but I really like it. It was sort of like another thing of almost the movie talking to the audience about like their expectations around like Jedi and stuff, where he's like, what am I just gonna walk out there by myself and like take on the whole First Order? Like I'm just one guy with a laser sword, which
Yeah.
I thought was like a really good point. Like it almost like to me like brings up the question of like we talked about how like, oh, only Jedi can take on Sith. It's like, really, Sith, I mean, they have magic powers, but they are just a person. Like they can't take on like a fucking huge cannon from like a capital ship or something. Like that would kill a
Yeah.
Sith.
Well, I guess the idea is he is supposed to use his wisdom and cunning to do some sneaky thing where you topple the First Order from the top down, like they did in the first one. But
Well,
like,
do you think that maybe if he sacrifices himself, he'll become more powerful than they could possibly imagine?
I mean, I obviously think that Mark Hamill's going to show up in the next movie as a Force Ghost. Obviously, like super for sure.
I don't know.
No, definitely,
I
definitely.
still just think Force Ghosts are the weakest thing. As I think if you kill a character,
No, I
they
like the
have to be
Force
dead.
Ghosts. I like Force Ghosts.
Well, it's if
I don't.
how does
Well, here's the thing: Force Ghosts
Keith?
essential
Keith,
to
have
the plot
Keith-
of A New Hope. Essential.
Have I ever told you the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
No, what? What is that?
I don't remember anymore, and that's my point.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you can overuse a Force Ghost. They've been done poorly. I think that The Last Jedi is an example. I think that the Last Jedi is. Oh, are you trying to remember her like character's name?
Someone said it in the chat, and I just went, "Oh, it was Holdo. That's the character's name."
Yeah, I ended up remembering it, but it's easier for me to just say Laura Dern. I think that The Last Jedi demonstrates that Force Ghosts can be very good if you use them in a way that's very good. And Yoda showing up and hitting Luke in the head and burning the Jedi Code books or whatever, the original Jedi texts, and laughing and cackling and calling him stupid is a very good use of a Force Ghost.
That's the thing. I really want to watch that movie again. I just can't sit through it in the theater again, so I'm really excited for it to come out on Blu-ray.
Yeah, I really need to watch The Force Awakens. Maybe if I watch it and it really changes my opinions of something, good for you.
That's not exactly what I meant, but
okay.
okay.
Oh, can I borrow it?
Oh, no.
Oh, I thought that's what you meant.
Yeah, I usually lend out. I'm pretty generous with lending out my things, but mostly just to people that I like.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. Yeah, I'm looking through the synopsis. There's not much else that I really am dying to talk about. I only did a quick glance.
Okay. Did you find anybody that was complaining that the introduction of the idea of like war profiteers in the Star Wars universe as being one of the things that ruined Star Wars?
No, I didn't see that, but I will say that I love the fucking like they set you up for expecting a cantina scene, and instead it's rich assholes. That was great. That was so good. I really like that. Yeah,
again,
that's the thing. I really like Finn and Rose.
Like they don't use the exact hive of scum and villainy line, but it's like a place with all the worst
people in the world. Yeah. And then it's a fucking casino with war profiteers and arms salesmen.
Because I'm sure there's somebody out there that's like really butthurt about the idea that like X-wings and AT-STs like come from the same place or whatever.
Yeah. Did you a fun thing that I noticed was the fucking cops on the planet that were chasing Finn and Rose, riding the dogs. They looked like modified TIE fighters.
I don't remember.
They were like helicopter TIE fighters essentially because they were
that's cool.
They were able to hover and stuff. TIE fighters canonically not able to fly in atmosphere very well. So, taking off a couple points there, you guys.
That's why they're modified.
That's true.
And I think
Force
proves that you're wrong, Keith.
Yeah. Well, Force Awakens, new canon, new rules. I guess they're just throwing out everything, huh? No, I don't actually care.
Yeah. It's like, yo, these one-man interstellar fighters are flying in atmosphere, so they're literally throwing out everything.
That's what gives the X-Wing such an advantage on planets, is that they are good at flying in atmosphere and TIE fighters aren't.
Oh, dude, you want to talk about this retcon?
Yeah.
How about when they were talking about bombers and they weren't Y-wings? What was up with that?
I don't know. Fucking
What was
Y-Wings
up
are
with
sick,
that?
dude.
Y-wings are pretty sick. I mean, those bombers were also pretty sick, but
Those
Y-wings
were pretty
are
sick.
also pretty sick.
Yeah. Well, I think the problem, I think the difference is, well, first of all, Y-wing bombers don't drop physical bombs. They drop like energy bombs, and also are fighters. These were like bomb carriers. So I think they were a different ship designed.
They had those like rattling racks of bombs.
Yeah, it was great. They were like designed to they were bomb carriers designed to drop like hundreds of bombs. I think they were designed specifically to take out like Star Destroyers.
Yeah.
Um,
you know what I really liked about, I mean, Star Wars has never been that bad. It's always been pretty good about this, I think, at least in like the original trilogy. I like that they, in the space battles between like the Star Destroyers and the resistance ships and stuff, like you really got a sense of like how cumbersome big ships are in battle. Like it's like, yeah, they have a fleet of Star Destroyers, but like Star Destroyers can't like shoot X-wings off of other Star Destroyers.
No, they can't do that. Did that happen? Sorry, I was reading the chat.
No, I was saying that's what I liked about it, was that you got a sense of like how cumbersome something like a Star Destroyer is in an actual space battle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're really good at destroying capital ships, but for the same reason that the Death Star was destroyed by an X-wing in a pretty fucking goofy way. I'll say that.
Well, I think it was pretty simple. It was just you know, it's
Kyle, that opening was barely 2 meters wide.
Keith, well, if you remember, Keith, he used to target womp rats in Beggar's Canyon back home, and they're not much bigger than 2 meters.
Oh boy. Okay, but like
in his T-16,
a road that leads to a hole that leads to your reactor. Come on.
Well, Keith, we learned in Rogue One that weakness was put in there intentionally so that it could be destroyed. That's
a huge retcon. That's an enormous retcon, and actually is the fucking worst part about Rogue One.
I don't know. I kind of like it because, like you said, I never really bought that an X-wing could blow up a Death Star with one missile. But like, if you say, well, someone did it intentionally so that you could do that, I'm like, okay, I kind of buy that.
I guess the thing for me is that I'd rather let a dumb part of a Star Wars movie be dumb than make an entire movie explaining why it's not dumb. But in the chat, they're talking about Holdo. And
I just noticed this and wanted to read it.
The Holdo thing, I think, is very complicated. I think she's a complex character. I for real thought that she was a traitor for part of it. I for real thought that she was maybe just an asshole.
Yeah, I thought maybe she was an asshole. I never really thought she was a traitor, though.
I bought that. I bought that Poe Dameron was going to save them, right? And none of that ended up being true.
I had a lot of problems. I mean, I know that you're supposed to have problems with the way Poe Dameron acted in that movie, but he was kind of a big fucking dickhead in that movie.
He was a big dickhead, yeah.
And then it was kind of crazy that it ended with him being like the general of the Resistance or something. That was weird.
I don't think that happened. When did that happen? He got demoted.
Well, it was... Well, no, but then it it has that turn at the end where Leia's like, oh, what are you looking at me? Follow him. What are you looking at me for? Follow him.
I don't think that makes him a general. He just knows what he just had the idea.
No, but it's because,
everyone else died.
Yeah, it's because everyone else died, and spoiler alert, Carrie Fisher's dead also, so she kind of can't be in the next movie anyways.
Yeah,
so it's sort of like, oh, someone needs to lead the Resistance. And I think the story is supposed to be, oh, Poe goes from being sort of an ignorant hothead to learning what it means to be a good leader. And I think
he learned his lesson at the very end, and then
I guess it does kind of work that way, but it just it sort of reads like this guy was a shithead the whole movie, and then he was rewarded by with leadership.
Well, but here's the thing: that's what's so good about Poe's character was he was a shithead in the exact way that Star Wars teaches us it's a good way to be a shithead.
That's true. Yeah, exactly.
He was doing everything that a different Star Wars movie says is good and will work, and instead it got all of his friends fucking killed. And then at the end, when Finn is trying to do the Poe Dameron thing, because he's like, well, I'm Finn. I learned how to be in the Resistance from Poe Dameron. Poe Dameron has to say, like, no, we have to turn around. Like, don't do this. Like, we're all going to die. And then what good will that be? But
yeah, you know,
so we're talking about Poe Dameron. I want to talk about Holdo. Okay. Holdo, someone in the chat, it's been a minute or two. Holdo says, just because you're the admiral doesn't mean you should be withholding like information from your subordinates in a life or death situation. First of all, I actually do think that's what that means. Like, you're not like when you're at war and you're just a guy that's in the war, you don't fucking know what's going on. If you did, you wouldn't. You'd quit.
That's the whole thing about soldiers is that you're conditioned from day one to never question what you're told,
right?
And to not ask questions.
And the other thing is, she did tell Poe that, or like I guess Poe saw that they were fueling up the pods.
And
they were going to use the escape pods.
And then she told him.
And
then he got mad about it.
Yeah, and then that plan actually should have worked with 0 casualties, and it's only because of Poe and Finn's and Rose's plan that everybody died.
I was going to say that at the end of Empire, like the rash thing that Luke does is that, you know, they say like, oh, don't just run off and go to save your friends because you're going to get everybody killed. But he does it anyways. But then, like, kind of nobody's killed and everything's okay.
Well, hold on.
In this one, they sort of do the same thing.
This person's arguing with me still, and I want to talk about it. They say,
I was in the middle of a sentence. Why didn't you just let me finish my sentence?
Because I wasn't listening to you. You can finish your sentence.
Okay. In The Last Jedi, a lot of characters do the same thing where they go off and make the rash decision, but instead of nobody dying, a lot of people die.
Yeah. I agree with you.
Go ahead. Go argue with this person in the chat ruin the rest of our podcast by getting into an increasingly insane argument.
Well, they're talking about the part at the very beginning where Poe gets demoted because of the attack, and they say blaming Poe for the attack is like it's really not his fault that the bombers flew too close together. What kind of formation even is that? But that attack wasn't even supposed to happen. Like it
was not supposed to happen.
It was doomed from the start. So he wasn't supposed to even put the bombers there because just bringing them there was going to kill them. Also, they were trying to drop bombs over the same ship, so they all had to be over that ship. Yeah. And so they all were in the same place.
I mean, that's still a good point, but like asking why the bombers were so close together, it's kind of one of the. It's like why
keep them in frame is why.
Why didn't the hoodlums that you don't see at the beginning of Clerks put the gum into the door lock instead of the window lock? It's like because then there would be no movie.
Yeah, but yeah, the attack. It wasn't that he had a bad idea for an attack. It's that his commanding officer said, "Don't do this attack, or people will die." And then he said, "No, I'm doing it."
It was like, it was like huge insubordination. Like
the other thing is that I think
in real life, in the real military, if you did that, you wouldn't be demoted. You'd be like summarily executed.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they execute you in the military anymore.
No,
but
I know. I'm just joking.
I also think that they acknowledge in the movie that Holdo was like not the perfect commander and should have been more open. When Leia says like, Holdo's more interested in, or she basically says Holdo's not interested in seeming like a hero, and I think that was the acknowledgement that like, oh, she seemed like an asshole because she was trying really hard to help, and that if people learned about her plan, maybe they would be too scared. Like, people didn't know what was going on.
Well, I think with Holdo, what's good about it is what's great about a lot of things in this movie is that it's about shades of gray. How did
Ooh,
we get 2
Shades of
hours in without
Grey.
saying shades of
Shades
gray?
of Grey. Say it like that, nice and calm. Anyway, I just think, yeah, like, Holdo kind of sucked, but I don't think that it was anything that was like crazy. And then at the end, they show you that like that she is consistent in her beliefs, but is also willing to do the Poe Dameron thing if that is the only option left. And it was the only option
Yeah.
left, and she did it. And that's
I don't. Yeah,
that's the
I don't
lesson
think
that Poe Dameron needed to learn was there is a time and place to decide that now is the time to fly our ship right into a
Right.
Star Destroyer.
But also, when Holdo does it, it's only her. She's not taking anybody else out with her, and that's also an important thing to. Is like she's not inadvertently causing any casualties of innocent people. You're reading the chat again.
Only just at the very end there.
What did I say?
You said, well, now I don't remember. I did before
Okay.
remember.
All right. Is it? Are we maybe coming up to the end of the podcast, and that means that for the final moments with our closing thoughts, we should put the chat away so that we're not distracted?
Yeah. I want to say one last thing about the chat. This person says that they have a friend that's in the Marines and that a lot of people that are recipients of Purple Hearts got them directly disobeying orders. A Purple Heart is the thing that you get automatically when you get injured. There is no way to get injured and not get a Purple Heart. So if you disobey direct orders and then get a Purple Heart, that means that you just hurt yourself disobeying orders. And the other thing is that Poe Dameron disobeyed orders and then got like a bunch of fucking people killed. He didn't disobey orders and then save people.
Yeah, look, I don't know anything about the real life military, so it's not like I can argue with this person about it, but really what it comes down to is you're not supposed to think that Poe Dameron did good stuff in that movie, and that's the point. It's like so trying to argue that Poe Dameron was actually doing good things is ridiculous. Like he literally like starts a mutiny against like his fucking commander for no reason.
Yeah.
Like Poe Dameron is a class A shithead for most of that movie, but that's the point. You're supposed to think that.
You're supposed, or no, I think you're totally wrong, Kyle. I think you're totally wrong. I think that you're supposed to think that he's in the right the whole time. I think that's the point.
Oh,
that
well,
the movie
that's not what I thought.
Well, you watch movies weird, or you know more about Star Wars. That's the I didn't think that he was in the right the whole time, or I guess for part of it I did. Like I assumed that the plan that he was hatching was going to work. That's the trick. They throw at you a guy that in any other Star Wars movie would be a fucking hero and would have saved the day from the incompetent like admiral or whatever. And then actually what's happening is that he is throwing ill-advised plan against ill-advised plan against the Empire and basically handicapping and then handicapping the entire rebellion, aka resistance.
The resistance, Keith. The resistance, please.
So I guess that's I think why the Poe Dameron Holdo arc is important is because it is throwing you classic Star Wars archetypes and then saying actually these archetypes are not like infallible and probably most of the time are 100% fallible. You shouldn't be just like it matters in a war how many of your friends die.
I think it gets back to what we said before. It's just it's The Last Jedi is a movie full of like intentional I lost the word. It's a really simple word that is not that hard to remember.
Wait, okay. Say the sentence again, and maybe I can.
Challenging. It's a lot of. It's like the Last Jedi is just like a series of the movie, like challenging your like what you think Star Wars is. Like,
Yeah.
hey, like if you look at the world in a way that makes it feel more like a real place, you should probably expect the people to act more like real people.
Yeah. And that's how I think in that way it makes the movie feel more like a Star Wars movie because it's people with crazy plans fighting against impossible odds, but they're not following the pattern that was laid out for them. They are finding new impossible or improbable plans,
Mm.
fighting against impossible causes, and like it
Oh,
wasn't
fighting
Poe.
against impossible causes.
Yeah, it wasn't whole. It wasn't Poe Dameron's. It wasn't Poe Dameron's crazy crack shot plan. It was Holdo's weird sneaky plan. Like
Yeah,
that was an equally improbable plan. And they
that
set it up like it was going to be this like the path that Star Wars requires, and then they say no, Star Wars doesn't require a path. Is I guess, and I'm not disagreeing that Holdo seems like an asshole for a lot of the movie. I'm not. I like Holdo seems like an asshole for a lot of that movie on purpose. They maybe even went a little far with how much of an asshole they made her seem like.
yeah,
But
I'd have to see it again to really have like a full opinion on that.
yeah, that's fair. They anyway by not treading in the same path that 8 other Star Wars movies have tread. By not treading that same path.
Sorry, I'm getting a phone call. Just 1 second.
Okay.
Hi. What are you doing?
Dangenham said, agreed, Poe probably wouldn't have gotten so many people killed if he knew the plan. He probably wouldn't have gotten so many people killed if he, listened to his friends. If he listened to Leia at the beginning, he wouldn't have gotten people killed. If he decided not to mutiny, it's his fault. He was the one that did the mutiny. Like if he did a mutiny and saved everyone, that's different. Like a mutiny isn't part of everyday life on a ship. He did the thing that was crazy. He did the mutiny. Like you can't blame Holdo for Poe starting a mutiny. You can't do that's like blaming that is like blaming someone who got robbed for getting robbed. Like it's there's a difference between being a really bad leader and having a mutiny against you that directly leads to the cause of other people's death. Holdo wasn't being incompetent. Poe was under the impression that she was incompetent. She was actually about to save everyone. We also don't know exactly how much information the ship had. Like I'm sure that a lot of people knew the situation. Like the only person that we meet that didn't have information was Rose, and like Rose said, she's an engineer behind pipes all day. She's not she doesn't have any sort of she's not at war. She's working at war. I'm like, guys, for real, I'm totally uninterested in arguing about this anymore. This is no longer an interesting discussion. I agree that Holdo was an asshole. That's it. Holdo is an asshole.
Oh,
An asshole.
Yeah, we're
Like there's no like we already said it. Holdo is an asshole. Poe Dameron. The movie made it seem like Poe Dameron had a reason to cause a mutiny. Like it is not. It is not like
Keith,
yeah.
as the host of the Run Button podcast, I am forbidding you to continue this discussion. This is a person that is not being reasonable, and it is bringing down our podcast. Do you agree? You're just reading more of the stuff this person's saying.
I don't
you?
agree. No, this is a different person. If Poe listened to Leia from the beginning, they would have done it in hyperspace. The First Order would have followed and used the Dreadnought. Would have wiped them out. No, the Dreadnought. They were too far away. They were out of range. That's the like. So the different. I guess the difference is they destroyed the Dreadnought, and there would have been an extra ship there. But Snoke's ship is bigger than the Dreadnought anyway. Snoke's ship was there. Snoke's ship.
Snope sometimes? I can't.
No, I said it this time. I don't know why.
I think you said it one time before and just didn't notice, and I was just
Oh,
like,
that's
did
possible.
He say Snope?
That's possible. No, I know that it's Snoke.
So, maybe to end it, should we say like, is there something specifically that you want to see in the next Star Wars movie? Oh, you know what? I'm gonna say this. I want to back up. At that, in that moment when Rey and Kylo Ren team up, he kills Snoke and they team up to fight the Crimson Guards.
Yeah.
And first of all, I think that scene completely justifies the existence of Crimson Guards because I've always seen those guys before and been like, why does the Emperor need guards? These guys seem stupid. And then it's like, apparently they can fucking throw down.
Yeah, they can throw down. And but like, you're right that they do seem mostly useless. I think it's an appearances thing.
Yeah.
Although in the expanded universe from the previous fiction, Luke Skywalker was married to a former Crimson Guard.
Oh.
Mara Jade, an assassin and royal guard sent to kill him.
Oh boy! Wow.
Yeah, but he turns her to the light before falling at the temple of Sith Lord Exar Kun.
Oh my god!
I know it's way more interesting.
So dramatic, and I am doing, I think, a really good job of feigning care about this.
This is Luke Skywalker being a grumpy asshole that doesn't want to be a Jedi is actually the only thing so far more interesting than the canon that they replaced. That is like for sure, because instead they just had like Kyle Katarn being in there and being like there's no such thing as light side and dark side powers. That's the sort of best that they got out of Kyle Katarn.
What I was saying about the Rey and Kylo Ren thing was, at first I was like, wow, is Kylo Ren gonna go with Rey and then he's gonna be good in the third movie? That would be surprising and interesting. And then, you know, he has that turn where he's like, oh shit, now I can be the supreme leader. And he asks Rey to join her. And I feel even stupid admitting this, but I really actually thought for a second that she might go with him. Which I think is, I remember you saying that like your favorite thing about Return of the Jedi was you're like, dude, Luke almost becomes a Sith. He almost goes bad. And I said like, I've never felt that way. Like anytime I've watched Return of the Jedi, I never really believed that he might turn.
Oh man, you gotta fucking watch that movie again, man. That's like
I have.
It is so obvious. He's wearing black clothes. That is like filmmaking 101. That is like the symbolism shit that George Lucas was 100% all about. Was like because everybody knows that those movies are like George Lucas mixing Flash Gordon with like cowboy cereals, and the man in the black clothes
Flash
is like
Gordon was a cereal.
But not a cowboy.
It was
cereal.
sort of like Captain Crunch, but with marshmallows.
Oh, was
cereal jokes?
Idiot. I thought you were trying to say that Flash Gordon was a cowboy cereal, and I was like, "What are you talking about?"
No, Flash Gordon was a cereal. It just wasn't a Western. It was a sci-fi.
Right. Okay. Sorry. Do you want me to rephrase? Blending sci-fi cereals with cowboy cereals, then.
What's cowboy about it? I'm confused.
What are you talking about? What's cowboy about it?
About Star Wars.
He's like,
Like, you're saying,
he's like in a small town desert, and then he goes to like a rowdy cantina.
okay, sure,
It's very
all
westerny.
right, I'll take it.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that the text crawl was a western thing. That might have been Flash Gordon. I might be
No,
wrong
that was
about
Flash
that.
Gordon. Yeah, that
Anyway,
was like a
the
Jordan thing.
fucking man in the black clothes is like filmmaking 101
Yeah.
of western movies where that's the bad guy,
Okay,
and he's
yeah,
got
but like that's stuff that I was never gonna pick up on as an 8-year-old. Though.
he force choked a Gamorrean dude. It's not. I mean, it's not about. He force choke. He starts off the movie using Darth Vader's signature move on an
I know.
innocent guy.
No, you're totally right, and I don't mean to laugh at you. It's just it's funny because
The sentence he force choked a Gamorrean dude is
the
funny.
only thing I could remember about why, like, just you saying he force choked a Gamorrean in like a really pleading way has just always been stuck in my head ever since you said it. So I just thought it was really funny that you said it again.
It's a really, I mean,
Force choked a Gamorrean.
it's a really good evidence that he was about to turn to the dark side. He's
No, you're
brooding,
right. Like
and he's
in-
angry, and he's like the way
Yeah.
that he fights at the end. He's like pounding Vader with like dark room. All the light is like this red light.
See,
From the
that's always
walls
just
and
come across to me as being like, "Oh, Luke's not an awesome Jedi," but it never came. It never
he's fucking
hit me as like,
angry.
"Oh, he might turn."
He's
But I think that
angry, and that's
also
what
could
Vader
just be-
uses. Use that anger. That's what will make you be my apprentice. Would be if like you
Yeah.
can take that anger and fucking kill your friends with it.
But that's why he stops. Then goes like, "Oh, I probably shouldn't be so angry."
Yeah.
But I was thinking like, I could so easily imagine like Kylo Ren making the argument of like, no, look, like Snoke was the evil one, but if we lead the First Order, we can actually make it good. And then like, and he like him believing that, and then Rey believing that, and going with him. And I thought that would have been amazing.
Yeah, that would have been very, very interesting. So yeah, I guess for the next movie, it'll be worse because it's not Ryan Johnson. It'll be J.J. Abrams again.
Oh, so he's coming back. Okay.
Yeah. So what
Yeah.
Disney decided to do? This is brilliant. This is such a fucking shitty diplomat move on Disney's part. They were like, Ryan Johnson, you can have your own separate trilogy. You can do 3 movies,
Dude,
and it'll be
that's
your little
dope.
movies. It is dope, but it's such like a no. We need the guy that can sell the toys.
Who cares? Like I'm now like hearing that there's going to be an entire Ryan Johnson trilogy. Like I'm so happy about
those
that.
movies are
going to
be fucking great. I bet those are going to be so good. I'm very, very
you know
excited for
Jesse
it.
Thorne is friends with Ryan Johnson.
Is that true?
He got to go to the he got to go to the Last Jedi premiere.
You had to go to the star-studded Last Jedi premiere.
He got to, yeah. It was.
Did you almost say star-studded?
No.
Oh, you said he got to go to this, and I guess you were going to say the Star Wars premiere, but you stopped,
Probably,
and
I
I
don't
was
know.
like, is Kyle going to say star-studded?
He got to go to the star-studded premiere. He did. He
I thought
went to
maybe-
the star-studded premiere.
I thought maybe you'd been listening to JJ Go, and you heard them describe the premiere as the star-studded premiere.
No. But I thought it was interesting that he asked Ryan Johnson like, oh man, it must have been like really hard and stressful to make a Star Wars movie because so many fans, all those expectations. Like, did you ever regret the decision at all, or were you ever like, was it too much at some point? And apparently he just went like, no man, I got to make a Star Wars movie. Like it was only awesome.
That's good. Good for Ryan Johnson.
Yeah.
I like him. I like Ryan Johnson. I don't think that movie was perfect. I don't think that he had full control over aspects that he wanted control over. I don't think that if he did, it would have been like way, way better. I think that like,
Yeah, who knows?
yeah. But I think that between now and the time that he makes his movies, he should be forced to play the KOTOR games, especially KOTOR 2.
Forced.
He should be the forced. Yeah.
No, that's all I had was just
Saying forced.
I didn't
Okay.
have anything.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm glad that we got to you didn't have anything that quickly, because if we had tried to stretch that out, it might have been a disaster. Anyway, it was a really good movie. So ideas for the next one. Okay, so I think, man, I just
You
think
don't
I'm not
have
gonna
to
like it.
force it. Like I don't really have any ideas or expectations,
I
so
want to
like
have. I
don't
want to
really
have
have any
one.
answer.
I want to have one prediction. Um, how do you think they're going to resolve the fact that the two main characters of Star Wars that are still alive have died in the movies, and the one that has died in real life is alive in the
Yeah,
movies?
I
How
know.
are they going to do that?
See, when I saw Leia get sucked out into space
I
when the
fucking
ship
hate
got
this.
blown up, I was like, "Oh, well, that's convenient because
I
she's
really
dead
hate
in real
that.
life." So
I really hate that
that's
because
pretty
first of
clean.
all, it was goofy. It was goofy. I saw people being like,
You
"Oh,
mean
that's not
it
how the
was
Force."
goofy? Wait. We're talking about two different things. I'm
When she was
talking
sucked out
about
into space and
yeah,
flew her way
well,
back
no,
in.
we're talking about the same scene, but I was saying that when I saw her get sucked out, I just assumed that her character was dead, and I was like,
No.
well, that's convenient for them.
Yeah,
And
me too.
then I'm just saying, like, I was in the middle of
Okay, you're
saying
done.
something,
Okay,
and you
got it.
interrupted me to say your opinion
You
about a
know,
different
fucking,
part.
one day we're gonna have an episode where I comment every time you fucking interrupt me. It happens all the time. This is for real. I'm sick of you commenting on me interrupting you. I just because that's just the flow of the show, baby. I just let you interrupt me sometimes and just roll past
I
it and come
know.
back to it.
I'm not saying I don't
Oh
interrupt you,
man.
like right now.
All right, go do your thing that you were doing.
No, that's all I had. That's like I was lit. That's why it drives me crazy is because I was like 3 words from the end of my sentence, and then you jumped in to disagree with me
No,
about a
I
different
was
part
jumping
that I
in to
wasn't even
agree with
talking
you.
about.
I was jumping in to agree with you. I think the part where
But
she gets sucked out. I said it. I was doing it in the reverse order. I was starting off with the part where she flies back in, which is fucking goofy, and it sucked because like it played on people's actual knowledge that she died to create a dramatic moment in a movie, which is shitty.
I don't think it. I would guess that part was in that movie already. Because
Well,
I
they
think
should have fucking taken it out because it was like really weird to like make a character that who died while the movie was being made look like they died in the movie just to create a suspenseful moment that we both fell for. Because I also thought that when she got sucked out, I was like, oh, she's dead because she died in real life. So they had to kill her off in the movie. And then there was this goofy bullshit of like flies through space uh, covered in like
ice.
ice to the door and opens it up and goes back in and then is almost dead.
It was very goofy. I do like as I was watching it, I was like, like I don't have enough of a problem with this to deny the people that probably fucking love this. Like I haven't asked Nicole about it, but I guarantee you that if I said, "What do you think about Princess Leia doing the Force to fly through space?"
Oh,
she'd be like, "That was my favorite part."
I've only heard people say that they thought it was lame, which I also thought.
Yeah,
I have not heard
I
anybody
didn't
that
love
liked
it.
that scene.
I bet there were probably some long conversations about like should we cut that part out and somehow like recut the whole movie so that Leia just dies in that scene and we can just write Leia out that way. But I think she's too integral to like parts of the end of that movie.
I just feel like there's a way to make to like this might sound sensitive.
Sorry,
I don't know.
My feeling about that whole scene where she goes out into space and then flies back, I don't think that was changed or added or altered in any way around the idea that she died in real life. I think that's just what was in the movie and it's just in the movie.
I don't know. Because before she, I mean, I guess the whole Lord, I don't know. I just feel like before she died, why would they have her be in a coma for 90% of the film?
Well, I think it was.
I just feel like it was a clever movie trick to get her out of most of the film, playing on the fact that she died to make a suspenseful moment. And if I'm wrong, they should have changed it because it was not cool.
I think if you work backwards from that and say like, okay, well, if she hadn't died in real life and she was supposed to be in the whole movie, like what was going to be her role in the movie? And
Holdo, they would have just been her instead of Holdo, maybe.
Yeah, but then like Holdo has that dramatic moment where she sacrifices herself, and then Leia couldn't do that because she'd be alive at the end.
I don't know. Maybe they had
So
to. Maybe they had to change a significant amount. Maybe Holdo was in the movie in a different capacity, and Leia was off being in the movie in a different place.
Maybe Carrie Fisher just didn't want to be in the movie that much, and they were just like, all right, well, we'll put you in a coma.
No, because the plan was that the next movie. My understanding is that Carrie Fisher does enjoy the Star Wars movies. She's not Han Solo. She's not Harrison Ford. I mean, but that the next movie was supposed to like focus on her the way that this one focused on Luke and the last one focused on Han.
Oh yeah, I totally believe that. Obviously that plan's gonna have to change.
Yep. Anyway,
that's too bad. That sucks. That Carrie Fisher's not alive anymore. I mean, it sucks in general in the way that it sucks when people die, and it also sucks for the movie.
The experience of having a famous person die is like really weird because they a lot of times are because they're older are less famous than they were when they were younger, and so you end up seeing a lot of who they were after they die, and most of the time that is not. It's either something that I like because I like that person and it's fun to relive all those things about them that I knew that I like, or I don't care because I didn't know who they were, and so all this new information about them is inconsequential to me. But this was an interesting one where like I have always loved Star Wars, but I didn't know jack shit about Carrie Fisher, and then all this stuff coming out was like, oh, Carrie Fisher was fucking rad as shit, and I didn't know until after she died.
Yeah, Carrie Fisher is pretty cool. I think like the year or two before she died, Nicole got like way into Carrie Fisher, so I kind of like picked up some of that through osmosis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she wrote a book like a year or two ago, so that makes, or a year or two before she died.
I think she's written a couple actually. Oh. I know. If it's one book, it is the book, or it's one of her books is called Wishful Drinking, which is a really good title for an autobiography.
That is I never got any predictions out. I mean, someone in the chat said that we're going to get Force Ghost Luke at some point in the next movie, and I also I think I said that earlier, but I don't count that as a prediction because it feels so obvious to me.
Oh, I think it's totally a prediction because I'm not sure I agree with you.
Okay, well, we'll see. Man, there's no way fucking J.J. Abrams is going to resist having Luke Skywalker back in the movie. And Mark Hamill is game, dude. Mark Hamill's so game.
I know, yeah.
Mark, like
that's the thing is like even though Harrison Ford I think did a great job in the first movie, but like even his performance, if you compare it to Mark Hamill's, it's like it feels like Mark Hamill was really all in on it in a way that even Harrison Ford wasn't.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is that Mark Hamill even like says Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker even says to Kylo Ren like, I'm gonna die. I'm never gonna leave you alone. You're never gonna get rid of me.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And that's exactly
man, if he appears as a Force ghost, but to Kylo Ren, would be awesome.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Probably, I would imagine to. My guess is that it's going to be at least to Kylo Ren, if not to both Kylo Ren and Rey. Because, imagine being even less trained as a Jedi than Luke Skywalker was and being expected to do anything. But, yeah, so Kylo Ren, I bet is going to see some Luke Skywalker Force Ghost. I don't know. Maybe Luke Skywalker's going to use his dead time to try to turn Kylo Ren.
Maybe with all that time on his hands, he'll get around to hitting max level in the Old Republic.
Impossible. It's not. What is it? 20? It's not very high.
I still want to play more of that game.
Sorry. You meant the MMO, the Old Republic, not Knights of the Old Republic. No. I don't even know what max level is in that. I don't know. I think it was 40 or 50. They might have raised it. They probably raised it. That's what MMOs do.
Yeah, that's what they do. That's their thing. It is free though. We should go play that, right? Like, how have we not done a video of us playing in a party and doing like the co-op story thing? And how did we not do that?
Because it's a little bit lame.
Is it?
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty good. It's definitely my favorite MMO, but that's not saying much because I really don't like MMOs.
Hmm. I guess that's the part of it then.
Here's what it is. None of the in over the years choose your own dialogue, change the story shit has become more transparent to me as I've learned the tricks of those style of
Oh
games.
yeah, yeah. It was totally smoke and mirrors, but it was really effective though.
Yeah, well, it was really effective in games like Mass Effect or in the KOTOR games, but in the
Oh,
Old
I meant
Republic,
specifically in Old Republic, but
oh, in the Old Republic for me, there was uh, had zero effect. I felt like nothing I said or did mattered because
what?
characters had to be there, and you couldn't change their attitude towards you, uh, and you couldn't like kill someone that they needed to make a
Yeah.
quest out of later, and you
Well,
couldn't like cut yourself off from a planet after you're done with the missions because later you might need to go back there for new
yeah.
missions or like I just feel like every choice I made felt like um I don't know. So like those games to me feel like when you put your hand in a Tempur-Pedic mattress and then take it off and it like sort of slowly forms back. Like
Uh-huh.
that's the experience that I feel like those games should give you, where like the mattress is still exactly how it was, but when you were looking at it, you could still see the imprint of your hand.
Uh-huh.
And I just feel like the Old Republic was a regular ass mattress that does not form around your hand and never changes shape.
Well, I guess maybe that's a really good analogy, by the way. But
Thank
I,
you.
I,
In
I
third
think
grade, I
maybe
won
when I
second place in a analogy competition. So
is that true?
school
Is
wide,
that
yeah, that's true.
is that true? Oh my
School
god.
wide analogy. It was actually maybe first or second. I can't remember. I know that either way, I was supposed to go to like a regional thing and just didn't, or like maybe a district thing and just didn't.
No, that's weird.
Yeah.
I was just saying. I think I meant more like I didn't think it was like supremely effective in making you feel like you were really shaping the story, but I think the presentation of the story in that game is like so far beyond the presentation of story in any other MMO that it's like crazy.
Yeah, I agree. Although people say really good things about the Elder Scrolls one now. Apparently, they really fixed it.
Oh, okay, yeah, I haven't played that one.
Yeah, apparently it sucked for a while, and then they did like this huge, massive update, and now it's really cool.
Yeah, I see it every time I go on the Xbox store and it goes Morrowind, and I say Morrowind's on Xbox. Oh, it's the right. Okay, never mind. That's I mean, like, do whatever they did about like it's great that they fixed their game, but putting out an expansion that's just called Morrowind and having box art that says The Elder Scrolls Online in like 8-point font and then Morrowind in huge letters is fucked up and dirty. And
It's
they know
dirty.
what they did.
They know what
They
they
know
did.
what they
It's
did.
dirty. They know what they did. The best Elder Scrolls game by a wide margin.
I've never played it. I mean, I've played it for like a minute, but like not for real.
Isaac really loves Skyrim, and I really loved
Yeah.
Skyrim at the time, and like watching him get it and play it in like different formats. Like we have it for the Xbox One and we have it on the
Yeah, you have
Switch.
like 3 different versions.
Yeah, yeah, and like every time I see him playing it, I just like feel worse and worse about it. And I'm just like, please,
I've
please, for the
I've
love of
been
God, play The Witcher. You played 4 minutes of The Witcher 3, and you've played 800 hours of
I know.
Skyrim. This game
It's
was made in 1995. It's so bad.
it's yeah, it's funny because he talks about how like for him it's like comfortable to rewatch something or replay something, so that's why he's played Skyrim like 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And like I totally get that, so I'm not like trying to like judge it, but just
Yeah,
for
man, I
me
played
personally,
4,000 hours of Halo 2. I can never judge anyone except for that. Skyrim's boring.
for me though, it's like literally the opposite, where like the reason I never finish games and are constantly moving on to new ones is just because I like to me doing the same thing over and over again is like a weird prison.
I get both sides. I end up having to rewatch episodes of shows that I don't want to rewatch because Isaac wants to rewatch them, and I mostly don't
Yep.
mind. Because if you pick the right show, you can just jump around to the episode you remember least, and that's good enough for me. Um,
Hmm.
but
Can I oh, sorry, what's up?
no, you do your thing.
I was gonna say, can we finish up this podcast by me saying, "Hey Keith, when are we gonna do more Star Wars games?"
I'm ready fucking whenever, dude. I actually put a list together last week of the games that we should be playing.
Are those Super Star Wars games still at your house?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, unless you took them in a box. I have not seen them, but I assume that they're still here.
I also haven't seen them. That's the
Oh,
problem.
you
'cause
know
I have to
what?
get those for the
You must have
Kindle.
taken them because they were in the big box with the Atari. With
Yeah,
no, not the Atari. Or no, they were in the box with the Atari that just happened to
Right.
have also the Super Nintendo.
Right. Okay. Whatever.
Yeah.
Should we? Did we?
Did we? Why is there a wheelchair?
There's something about the Super Star Wars games that, like, even though they're hard as fuck, I think it was like when I learned that every level you get to gives you a password that you can warp back to that level when you restart the game. It makes you feel like, oh shit, well, if you can restart from the level you're on, then it's actually possible to beat those games. Maybe we should try.
Oh,
But I
did
don't
you
know.
not
Maybe
know that
that's
it
like
did
a
that?
good marathon thing or something.
I just
I think
always
for me it's a big driver for me in games is when you can make permanent progress. So once I find out that you can make permanent progress in a game, then I'm like, well, then it's possible. Like you can beat it if you get permanent progress.
I didn't know that maybe you. I just always assumed there was permanent progress without knowing. And because when I played it, I played an emulator where I had save states.
Ah, there you go.
Permanent progress, save states, baby, coming at ya. Save that ROM.
Keith, where does The Last Jedi rank in all of Star Wars?
Oh God, that's easy. It is the fourth
It's
best.
pretty easy. Yeah, it's not that hard, right?
Yeah. It is it. Okay, so here we go. Best to worst. 6, 4, 5. That's gonna get me some shit.
Dang,
6, 4,
that's
5.
filthy.
6, 4, 5, 8. 7. Rogue One. 1, 2, 3.
Oh wow, I wasn't even expecting Rogue One to be in there, but it's above the prequels.
It is above the prequels.
You know,
Just by a hair. Just by a hair, it's above the prequels.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have all the Star Wars movies on Blu-ray except Rogue One, and I'm like, should I? Do I want to watch that movie? Like, I don't know. Okay, I guess
Or let's
that's
just fuck off, Keith. I wonder what that's. I wondered which of my movie placements is causing that, or maybe all of them.
Probably Empire being third in the and Jedi being first.
Here's the thing,
original
man.
trilogy
But they're so fucking close. Like, people have
doesn't
like big
matter.
arguments about which one's their favorite, and I will have a big argument if you force me to defend my placement. But like those movies are all essentially the same to me. It's just that I really like the theme of Luke Skywalker actually facing the consequences of learning about his powers and what the dark side is, and being tempted by those powers to lash out. I am not a fan of Episode 1. I just don't think it's the worst movie ever made, which is a lot of people's ideas of it.
Yeah. Sorry, what was your prequel? I actually didn't even bother listening to your ranking of the
They got worse as they go. 1 is the best, 2 is the second best, 3 is the third best. 3 is my least favorite of all of them. I actually
I think it's easy to say that 3 is a good one, but it's just the one that has the most action. It's not.
It has the most
actually
action,
better
has the
than
most
other
polish.
movies.
It's not any better. It's pretty bad. I have always claimed that with the right tools, I could recut Episode 2 into a good movie pretty much without removing anything. I think that the biggest problem with that movie is that they characterize Anakin as a shitty, whiny, entitled asshole before they show you how horrible his life has been and how much he's been under the the guidance of Palpatine and how much losing his mother affected him.
Yeah.
You seem more sympathetic to that than the last time we talked about this. But
well,
if they had
I've had 6+ years of you hammering this into my head. Also, I think I rewatched. I think before Force Awakens came out, I rewatched all the movies and came away thinking like, okay, I totally see a lot of the things Keith's been saying about Attack of the Clones.
Awesome, that's really great to hear.
I told you about that already.
I actually don't. I don't remember.
I don't want you to feel what you just felt twice. It was gross enough once. I don't want to give you this 2 times.
I just really want to hammer home the idea that like Anakin he has been having nightmares about his mom through the Force for his entire time away from her. And then when he goes to try and save her, she dies in his arms. And people don't like that movie because he seems kind of rude. You know? Like, it's just like they did a bad job ordering that movie. Also, he's super creepy with Padme.
It's so coarse.
It's so coarse.
And it gets in everything. Everything here is so...
There is a subtle implication that he is like using the Force to manipulate her emotions, which I think is like super gross. But
when did that happen?
During the entire time that they're like vacationing together.
Well, how is that implied?
It's very subtle. But I mean, he does it outright by bragging, and then like, okay, dude, watch that fucking movie again and watch how stilted and like awkward his lines are, and how like ready Padme, who is a smart and intelligent person, is to accept
aren't
this
you
little
really
boy's...
just saying that it's completely unbelievable that Padme would fall for him? Because that I'm fully on board with. I think
really what it is that like this is an opinion that I formed when watching those movies, and then I haven't seen those movies in 3 years, so I can't like pick out the little details of it anymore.
Okay.
That's really what it is.
I just want to say that, like, you can't just casually offhand say to me, like, oh, just watch that movie again. Like, you have to understand what you're asking me to do. You can't just say
I was kind of being rhetorical, not literal.
I know.
Anyway,
that
movie...
Yet? I think we've been ending this podcast for about an hour.
Yeah, I agree. Episode 2 could have been a lot better if they had figured out how to characterize Anakin Skywalker in a way that wasn't so shitty, and if they emphasized better what I believe to be his use of the Force to manipulate the people around him. What?
Someone in the chat just said in all caps, "I've been trained in the Jedi arts by Count Dooku." Proceeds to spin arms like a propeller plane. Like, I love the idea that someone would have to teach a robot man how to use a sword, and that's the Jedi arts.
Well, you have to be careful because the blade doesn't weigh anything, so you can't handle it like it's an actual sword. And if you make a mistake, that's your arm, buddy.
That's your arm, buddy.
That's your arm, buddy. And that's
I mean, if Count Dooku if he's at his core organic, if he was trained in the Jedi arts, does that mean that he's Force sensitive, or does that mean Count Dooku taught him what you can do?
Sorry, you at the beginning you said Count Dooku. You meant to say General Grievous.
Yes.
I do not believe General Grievous is Force sensitive. I just believe he has robot fighting arms.
What if he was Force sensitive before he got roboticized, and then he's not man enough to connect with the Force anymore?
By not man enough, you don't mean masculine enough. You mean enough of a human, is what you mean?
I mean he doesn't have the balls to connect with
This fucking robot doesn't have the stones to use the Force. He does.
All right, we should.
You think you got the chutzpah, huh? To use the Force on me?
Do you have the moxie to pull that?
This fucking guy don't have the moxie for shit. This guy doesn't have the ass to take a shit, let alone to catch a Jedi check with.
All
That was
right,
very complicated.
Let's
Get
call it there.
Hold on. I
You
mean,
further
is
this.
he doesn't have an ass to take a shit, so he doesn't have the thing that you need to cash a check. What's that? How does that go? He wrote a
your-
check.
His
He
mouth
cashed
wrote a check.
his
His
mouth
ass
wrote a
couldn't
check.
cash.
His ass. Have we done this before?
Yeah, this is. This is, if anything, this is like a run button signature bit.
Yeah,
at this
no, I
point,
knew
is
that. Yeah,
not
me
knowing how
asking
that
if we'd done it
goes.
before was a joke.
Okay.
His ass bounced a check his mouth couldn't cash.
That's what?
How does it go?
Are you really asking? Because I just told you.
I forgot, man.
It's his mouth wrote a
mouth
check. His
wrote a
ass
check,
couldn't
his
cash.
ass
See, the
couldn't
thing is, ass and cash that's a tongue twister.
Yeah, see, here's the thing. It sounds so obvious when you remember what it is, but if you can't remember what it is, it like feels like it doesn't never
really
work.
Yeah,
that was all joke.
The idea of the ass being the part of your body that cashes a check has always been very strange.
Well, I guess it's that he talked some shit and he got his ass kicked, right? That's what it means. Like you said some shit with your mouth and I kicked you in the ass and you couldn't handle it.
I guess so. I think in this case, ass is like a catch-all term for a person and their actions.
I think it just means that like it's about getting beat up.
Thanks for listening to our spoiler cast of Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. Please come back next time for our spoiler cast of Star Wars Episode 8, The Final Frontier.
If you enjoyed this, you can go to contentburger.biz and check out our different things that you can get by donating to contentburger.biz.
Yeah, at our next Patreon goal is
more podcasts.
Is more podcasts, monthly podcasts. So if you're listening to this and you're like, I love when Keith and Kyle talk about things in pod form,
yeah,
then consider donating at patreon.com/runbutton.
Form of podcast. Form of a podcast.
Form of a sync class.
Whoa, you turned into a robot. It sounded very weird.
Whoa.
Oh, whoa, new mic. What's going on? This is a new mic.
Whoa, no, you know what just happened?
What?
I said that and then Audacity crashed.
Oh, boy. I hope it has your file still. I guess that's the end of the show.
Yeah, that's the end. Okay,
that's the end. Bye.
Wait, why did you say new mic? Is it?
Oh, because your other mic is on now. The shitty laptop.